A figure steps into the spotlight. Just a guy out for a morning run. His name, Ju In-gong. Fun fact that literally translates to main character in Korean. His parents blessed him with that handle, praying he'd grow up to be a big shot. He strolls into a shop where he's basically a local celebrity. Since he was a kid, everyone roasted him for that name. But did he care? Nope. Being the center of attention wasn't his vibe anyway. Turns out he was walking into a gaming den. He told the blonde cashier to quit trolling him and asked if the new drop was in stock. Joke's on him, she already had his copy stashed under the counter. They were geeking out over the Night Saga remake, officially titled Night Saga RE. Classic humans versus demons beef. You pick your fighter, the human hero, Locke, or the demon king's eldest son, Zephyr Ragnarok. The whole loop is just pure adventure and grinding quests. This dude had speedrun the original over 10 times as a kid. He was a walking wiki for the lore. Plus, it was a flagship title for the new mainstream VR era. In-gong finally touched down at his crib. He immediately unboxed the game card. VR headset secured, cartridge slotted into the console, game on. While the loading screen spun, he planned his session. Just a chill, 8-hour binge to unwind. A few seconds later, reality glitched. He was fully transported. Eyes snap open. Sunlight is piercing through a jagged roof. He wasn't in his room anymore. He was waking up on a cot inside the game world. But something was off. He looked down and didn't recognize his own avatar. Then a gruff voice from outside shattered his thoughts, asking if he was still snoozing. Suddenly, a massive ogre shoved its face through the tent flaps. It barked at him to get moving because their schedule was packed. In-gong was shook by the 4K realism. He hyped up the graphics out loud. The ogre looked baffled. Graphics what? That's when it clicked he could actually communicate with the NPCs. Total mindblower. The trailers never mentioned AI this advanced. He asked the beast for its name. The ogre looked hurt that he'd already forgotten. It's Carrick, he grunted before dropping a bomb. Prince Shutra. Carrick said the squad was waiting. Then the memory unlocked. Shutra Ignas, the Demon King's 9th son. He couldn't wrap his head around playing as Shutra. That character was never an option. He swiped the air to summon the status menu. Ding, it actually popped up. He figured the devs forced him into this role for the prologue. He checked his stats and almost puked. Even trash mobs have 10 points per stat. He was sitting at a pitiful 5 across the board. Embarrassing for royalty. Time to check skills. Conquest, level 1. And protagonist setting adjustment, level 1. In-gong started sweating bullets. If protagonist setting adjustment meant what he thought it meant, Carrick popped his head back in, screaming for him to hustle. In-gong stepped out and his jaw hit the floor. A platoon of ogre warriors stood in formation. The vibe was heavy, felt like a war zone. He asked Carrick why everyone was so on edge. Carrick rolled his eyes. Quit stalling. We gotta exterminate those Scarlet Lightning scumbags. In-gong's face went ghost white. Wait, this was his first real battle, panic mode engaged. He hadn't even run a tutorial yet. Apparently the Scarlet Lightning orcs were staging a coup, and he was tagged to crush it alongside the 7th prince and 8th princess. But why was his squad only 10 deep for a literal war? Carrick sighed, reminding him he already explained this yesterday. It's just a patrol mission. The ogre eyed him suspiciously, asking if he ate some bad mushrooms because he was acting weird. Our MC toggled his HUD. Boom minimap active. That was a game changer, so he decided to keep that cheat sheet open 24/7. He spotted a hidden trail on the map. Secret event, probably. Carrick checked his own primitive map, but the ogre groaned, saying that route takes forever. In-gong smirked. Follow me, I know a shortcut. The squad fell in line. They hacked through bushes and scaled a rocky cliff. Classic shortcut labor. Our MC was already gasping for air, but they finally reached a hidden stone door buried in the forest. Massive double handles. Still wheezing, he heard Carrick ask, "How'd you even know this was here?" "You a wizard," now the ogre pressed. In-gong just replied, as if. Then Carrick noticed the prince looked like he was about to pass out. "You good?" Carrick asked. In-gong didn't expect a level 1 body to be this out of shape. He ordered them to check the door but froze. His body started glowing. Jaw drop, round 2. System notification level up. Are you kidding? He leveled up just by hiking, plus every stat jumped by 2 points. And he got 2 extra points to spend. Broken mechanics. He let out a weird noise that caught everyone's ear. Carrick yelled to hurry it up. In-gong jogged over to the now open doors. He honestly had zero clue what was lurking in the dark. But hey, he wasn't solo. And more importantly, he had that sweet, sweet protagonist plot armor. The tunnel was pitch black. Carrick guessed dwarves dug it. In-gong paused. Wait, since when did dwarves exist in this timeline? The ogre set the record straight. Nah, they're gone, but they used to run this place. Our MC pressed him, asking if they'd migrated out of the demon realm, or just vanished. Carrick shrugged, totally clueless. Suddenly the whole squad froze. A massive loot pile, treasure chest, and gear littered the path ahead. Gold fever hit the ogres instantly. Their eyes lit up and they mocked the dwarves for being stupid enough to abandon such high-tier weapons. They started hoarding everything, lugging the heavy steel like it was nothing. Meanwhile, our MC zoned out deep in strategy mode. The system UI flashed, a warning his level strength and mana were way too trash to equip any of this high-level gear. But In-gong didn't care. Loot is loot. He'd figure out the inventory mechanics later. He tapped an item, visualizing the concept of storage. And poof, it vanished. It materialized right inside his inventory window. New mechanic unlocked, touch and manifest. Just think collect and it's yours. Suddenly, a red blip pinged on his minimap. Everyone back up, now, he screamed. The team spun around, confused completely, missing the dungeon wall fracturing behind them until boom, an ogre dropped instantly. Through the dust, an orc stepped out. But this wasn't a grunt. It was the Scarlet Lightning Tribe's general, Kai Chan. It was a setup. They'd been camping this spot. Charge. The orc horde swarmed in. It was a massacre. The ogres fought desperately, but they were getting shredded. Our MC, however, stood paralyzed, error 404 inches his brain. Fight or flight, he needed XP. He crept toward an orc locked in combat looking for a cheap kill steal. He swung his sword, snap. The blade shattered like glass on impact. Dead silence. The orc slowly turned, snarling in his face. Ingong scrambled, sprinting for his life with the beast hot on his heels. He tripped, eating dirt hard. HUD flashed red. Health, at 1 out of 15. Mana sat at 5 out of 5. Game over, no moves left. He let out a pathetic shriek as the orc raised its weapon. But clang. An ogre intercepted the blow. It was Karak. Kid, do you have a death wish? Move. Get out of here, Karak roared, locking blades with the enemy. Ingong stood there, hands trembling uncontrollably. It's just a game, he chanted, trying to stop the panic attack. I'm done. Logging out now. This was way too real. He frantically pulled up the system menu. Stats check. He scrolled down, looking for the escape button. Skills. Blank. Then the cold dread hit him. The logout button. It was missing. Reality sank in. He was trapped in the game. While the battle raged, Kai Chan locked eyes with him and started closing the distance. The general levitated jagged rocks, aiming straight for the weak link. Ingong panicked, I can't die here. But he wasn't fast enough. The stones slammed into him. Agony ripped through his body, followed by a massive explosion. Consciousness fading, lungs burning. Through the blur, he saw Kai Chan marching over to finish the job. The last image burned into his retina was the blade coming down. Health hit 0 out of 15. Darkness. Sutra's mind floated in a void. Limbo. He had no clue where he was. The memory of the orc execution replayed in his head. Terror seized him. Did I actually die? Suddenly, a blinding golden light pierced the darkness. A voice boomed, declaring him the fated existence. A spectral woman manifested with a ruthless command: conquer, enslave, rule. Ingong was bewildered, and just as quickly she vanished. Back in the physical world, the ogres were getting stomped. Kai Chan strutted back to his lines, arrogant and bored. He couldn't believe they tried to raid this spot. With such a pathetic squad. Are they brave or just brain dead? He waved to his army. Wipe them out. Don't waste my time. But then he paused. A surge of energy rippled through the air. He turned. It was Sutra. The boy was engulfed in a golden aura. System update, telekinesis level 1 acquired. He didn't even know when he learned it, but the notifications kept popping. New subclass unlocked, Knight of Conquest, level 1. Kai Chan snarled, kill that glowing brat. Karak saw the aura and bellowed, protect the prince, form a wall. Don't let them touch a hair on his head. Sutra watched the chaos, glancing at his status screen. Knight of Conquest. That wasn't in the wiki. It wasn't a standard knight class. Confusion mixed with raw power radiating from his core. It felt familiar, like he'd always possessed it. Ancient spells echoed in his skull. His expression shifted from fear to dominance. He recited the incantation like a ruler. The power of conquest is the power of a king. Under the king's banner, a massive golden shockwave washed over his allies. Under the king's banner, a level 11 skill. Massive area of effect buff. The ogres roared. They could feel the strength surging through their veins. Morale skyrocketed. It was payback time. Weapons. Who needs them? They tore into the orc lines with bare fists, smashing enemies like ragdolls. Kai Chan stepped back, rattled. What is this power? It made no sense. He glared at the source, Sutra. Die. He hurled another volley of rocks at the prince to break the spell. Sutra didn't flinch. Crash. Karak obliterated the attack mid-air. Those attacks, they weren't even going to graze him. The squad looked hyped about their flawless teamwork. Sutra juiced Karak up with a massive buff and sent him barreling toward Kai Chan like a runaway freight train. Pure terror washed over Kai Chan. Dude didn't even have a split second to dodge. Snick. Karak took his head off in a single brutal stroke. Seeing their leader drop, the orc army's spirit crumbled instantly. They tried to bail, but the ogres weren't having it, hunting down every last runner. No survivors. A system ping flashed before Sutra's eyes. General's merits credited to the king. Then came the dopamine hit, a cascade of notifications, screaming that he'd leveled up. The rush was real. He was grinning ear to ear. Karak clocked his mood shift and started wondering just what kind of power boost Sutra had actually snagged. That mystery strength had Karak buzzing too. He glanced over at the prince, convinced that this royal was the secret sauce behind his newfound juice. Back at base camp, the vibes shifted. Sutra sat in his tent, practically spiraling. He frantically scrolled the menu, but the logout button, gone. MIA. He forced a deep breath, trying to keep the panic attack at bay. His brain crunched the data and spat out 2 theories. Theory 1, he's stuck in the VR dive. Maybe the servers back in the real world crashed hard, or some catastrophic bug bricked the login system. If that's the case, a patch or server reset should boot him out eventually. But theory 2, that one sounded straight up delusional. What if this isn't a game at all? What if this is actual reality, an isekai scenario straight out of those web novels and comics he used to binge? He mulled over the possibility of getting transported into the game's universe or a dimension that mirrors it perfectly. The graphics were too high-res, the textures hyper-realistic, and the NPCs weren't just spouting pre-written lines, they were having full-on dynamic conversations. But the smoking gun, the censorship pixels were missing. He did a quick equipment check downstairs to confirm. Yep, fully rendered. All the evidence pointed to one terrifying conclusion. He was definitely in another world. The thought of permadeath in this place sent a chill down his spine. No respawns here. But hey, silver lining's right. At least he didn't spawn as some ugly orc or a brain-dead ogre. He rolled a nat 20 on his background, born as a prince with a platinum spoon in his mouth. Suddenly, Carrick barged into the tent, catching Sutra off guard. Got a minute. The big guy didn't want to chat. He wanted to spar. Why the sudden interest? Sutra asked. Carrick kept it 100 since he's following Sutra now. He needs to know if his leader can actually swing a sword, or if he's dead weight. Is this really necessary? Sutra sighed. Carrick tossed a blade at his feet. Relax, your highness. I'll nerf myself. Won't even use half my strength. Sutra let out a dry laugh. Bold words to say to royalty. He gripped the hilt, eyes narrowing. Don't hold back, Sutra roared, lunging forward. Carrick braced for impact, expecting a heavy blow. Clang. When the sword connected. Awkward silence. Carrick just stood there like a statue, while Sutra wailed on him. It was getting embarrassing. The ogre was actually getting annoyed. He literally couldn't feel the hits. It was like being attacked by a mosquito. Fed up, Carrick swatted back, sending the prince stumbling backward until he hit the dirt. Panic flashed on the ogre's face. You good boss. Sutra groaned, dusting himself off. Dude, warn me before you hit that hard. Suddenly ding, a system window popped up. Skill acquired, basic swordsmanship. Wait, what? He racked his brain. Then it clicked. This was exactly how he unlocked telekinesis earlier. The mechanic was pain-based. He unlocked skills by literally getting his butt kicked. Carrick started walking away to grab some grub, thinking the session was done. Not so fast, Sutra called out. He wasn't done farming XP yet. He dropped into a combat stance, eyes burning with determination. Round 2, let's go. Sutra launched himself forward again. Carrick casually deflected the strike, but something was different. The prince's form was sharper, cleaner. Carrick frowned. If he could move like this, why was he flailing around like a noob just 5 minutes ago? Skills don't just jump tiers mid-fight. Right, Sutra hopped back after the exchange, a wild grin plastered on his face. The guy looked like he was having the time of his life. How was that one? Sutra panted before pivoting to the real question. By the way, what's your level sitting at? Last I checked, 21, Carrick grunted. Sutra glanced at his own stats. Oh yeah, he could work with this. He'd gap that level difference in no time. See, everyone in this world had levels, but unlike him, they were flying blind. The locals needed clunky evaluation spells to see stats. Sutra, he had the ultimate cheat code, a live HUD. Being able to see stats in real time and dump points into specific attributes was a broken advantage. Time to grind. Our MC dove back into the fray. Carrick actually flinched this time. Sutra could feel it. He wasn't just going to get stronger. He was going to become a speed demon, leaving everyone else in the dust. He recalled the lore of Night Saga, the demon arc. The whole plot revolved around Zephyr, the protagonist who ruthlessly outclasses his siblings. It's a long grind to the finale where Zephyr claims the Demon King throne, but one specific plot point stuck out like a sore thumb. The infamous Purge of 517. That's the year Zephyr snaps and slaughters every single one of his brothers and sisters to secure the crown. And the key word there is all. That includes Sutra. Right now the calendar reads year 512. That gave him a 5-year countdown before his scheduled execution. He needed a survival plan, and fast. The only way to survive, the protagonist, become stronger than the protagonist. Later, Carrick walked up, looking annoyed. There you are. I've been searching the whole camp. What's up? Sutra asked casually. Carrick stared at him. You totally forgot about the strategy meeting, didn't you? The entire command team is waiting in the main tent. Cut to Sutra, sipping tea with 2 other VIPs looking visibly awkward. You guys are early, Sutra bluffed. Across the table, the 7th Prince, Chris Moonlight, raised an eyebrow. Since when are you so polite? Chris was pushing for that fam-only vibe, telling him to drop the formalities. The 8th Princess, Caitlin Moonlight, wasn't exactly sold on it first meeting and all, but Chris wasn't hearing it. He insisted Sutra use their first names. These two were the offspring of Elaine Moonlight, the 4th queen and matriarch of the lycanthropes. Back in the game, they were absolute boss fight nightmares. But the lore was tragic. A year before the day of the massacre, they were scripted to die at the hands of Zephyr and the Demon King's other heirs. The catalyst for their death, the dark secret of Caitlin Moonlight's lineage. She's an illegitimate child. Right now, she was grilling Sutra on why he went rogue against the enemy, instead of sticking to the plan. She had given him strict orders to stick to stealth patrol. Sutra shrugged it off, explaining, he never expected an ambush from that angle. Caitlin scanned him, her eyes filled with genuine concern. She asked if he took any damage, reminding him that he had to watch his back since he was the squishy one of the group. Sutra blinked, confused by the sudden warmth. Since when were the Demon Kings spawn? This tight-knit Chris chimed in, warning him that he was in for a serious lecture. If he pulled a stunt like that again, Shutra couldn't process it. They were actually nice. Then a light bulb went off in his head. Lycanthropes are basically walking batteries of life force, oozing aura. If he used their biology as a shortcut, he could snag some skills and unlock aura mastery on easy mode. He looked them dead in the eye and said he needed a favor. I need you to blast me with your aura. The siblings froze, totally dumbfounded. Their collective reaction was a flat, say what? Meanwhile, as the sun dipped behind the mountains, orcs were getting slaughtered. The ogres were dominating the battlefield. Suddenly, a massive ogre tank bulldozed through the lines. The smaller ogres hyped him up, cheering wildly. With a single swing, he deleted several orcs from existence. One foolish enemy tried to rush the giant, managing to land a tiny scratch on his arm. The giant glared, freezing the attacker in pure terror before smashing him into oblivion. The enemy body disintegrated. The giant roared, ordering his army to wipe them all out. He promised a bounty for whoever racked up the highest kill count. The troops went feral, fueled by the promise of loot, fighting with zero restraint. While the battle raged, Shutra's mind snapped into a void. Floating there was a woman radiating goddess energy, surrounded by a mysterious entourage. He racked his brain. These NPCs weren't in the Night Saga lore or character files. The woman drifted toward him, and suddenly he was engulfed in a blinding golden light. He jolted awake in his bed, totally disoriented. Was it a fever dream? Bam! Carrick's ugly mug was inches from his face, asking if he was awake. Shutra nearly jumped out of his skin. He yelled at the orc for the jump scare, but Carrick just shrugged, noting he looked healthy. Then the orc got curious. Why did Shutra ask the princess to beat him up? Shutra had nagged them until they agreed. Carrick's eyes went wide as he pointed at Shutra's body. He was glowing. System alert, aura, level 1, obtained. Shutra could feel the power humming under his skin. Carrick asked if getting hit was the secret trigger to awakening aura, and Shutra gave him a cryptic non-answer. Then Carrick leaned in, asking if that power boost was why Shutra had infinite stamina during the brawl with the Lightning Tribe. Shutra just nodded. Yup. Carrick looked at him like he was a Legends tier warrior. Shutra asked for a sit-rep on what happened while he was out cold. Carrick nodded and dropped the news. The main force absolutely crushed. The Lightning Tribe. Shutra paused. He thought this was a 3-man raid with him, Chris, and Caitlin, taking down the Scarlet Lightning Tribe solo. Carrick laughed. No way, that tribe was massive. That prompted Shutra to ask the big question. Who was the commander? Carrick dropped the name General Vandal. Shutra was shook. General Vandal. An absolute tank and one of the strongest units in the game. In his past life as Zephyr, Vandal was his favorite subordinate. Shutra realized the timeline shift. Vandal doesn't join Zephyr's squad until the year 515. That meant right now he was a free agent. Shutra could snatch him up before the plot officially started. He had the wiki memorized. He knew Vandal's favorite loot, his cravings, and exactly how his talent tree worked. But the recruitment condition was hardcore. He had to beat Vandal in a duel. But with his meta-knowledge, stealing Vandal from Zephyr was totally doable. Shutra grinned. This was a side quest worth grinding for, and the clock was on his side. Target acquired. General Vandal. Back at Caitlin's base, the siblings were losing their minds. Shutra hit aura level 1 in 24 hours. Impossible. Shutra fought back, a smirk, thinking, well, yeah, I just stat dumped all my points into aura. It wasn't just a reckless gamble either. Aura is the ultimate buff for physical stats, way better than a niche trick like telekinesis. Chris was still reeling. He wondered if it was some Gandharva racial trait. Then he pivoted, asking if Shutra could map out the underground tunnels. Shutra couldn't scout, but he had the ultimate cheat, the in-game mini-map. He grabbed a pen and paper. A few minutes later, the map was done. Chris looked at the sketch, eyes wide. It was way more high-def than their own intel. Kid, you're a genius, Chris muttered. Since the Scarlet Lightning scouts they killed were dead, the enemy had no clue their tunnels were compromised. Chris realized they could stage a perfect ambush using this intel. But before that, there was one more mission they needed Shutra to handle. With the conversation wrapped up, Shutra rolled out with Carrick and the squad. Back to the grind, another patrol shift. Being the youngest prince meant getting stuck with the grunt work. Carrick tried to look on the bright side. At least they had reinforcements this time. Shutra kept it real, admitting they only made it this far because they hustled for it. Out of nowhere, 2 cloaked figures blocked their path. It was Caitlin and her handler. Shutra asked what was up with the disguise. She put a finger to her lips. She had been tailing him, shadow style, ready to jump in only if things went totally south. She wanted this win to be his alone. Honestly, he was shocked she was riding for him like that. Part of him wondered if she was just naive. That was when Sarah, the agent, stepped up to introduce herself. He gave a polite nod. Caitlin insisted they would hang back and trail the group on their own terms. Just pretend they are not there and focus on the scout. They pushed into the cave, swallowing the darkness as they went deeper. The chambers were stripped bare. A total ghost town. Whoever moved out took everything not nailed down, probably the dwarves. Shutra questioned the loot haul from their last run. Carrick shrugged, figuring the dwarves just left behind what they considered trash. Deeper they went. Carrick stiffened. Something was incoming. Shutra heard the skittering too and checked his minimap. He knew exactly what was on the menu. Opening his inventory, he grabbed a flash spell item. Better safe than sorry. Eyes shut on my signal, he barked. The squad tensed up, bracing for the impact. Hundreds of glowing eyes pierced the gloom. Rock spiders poured out of the cracks, pure nightmare fuel. Classic dungeon trash mobs. They swarmed in dozens and packed a nasty paralysis venom. The second they rushed, Shutra yelled the command. He launched the potion skyward, shattering the vial instantly. Blinding white light flooded the tunnel. The stone spiders shrieked, frozen stiff. Light was their kryptonite. Creatures of the dark cannot handle the flash. Wipe them out, Shutra roared. The ogres went beast mode, smashing through the paralyzed arachnids like wet paper. Shutra observed the chaos. He knew mob logic. Where there is a swarm, there is a boss. He signaled Karak. Time to headhunt the leader. Cutting through the carnage, they beelined for the main threat. There it was, massive compared to the grunts. Karak lunged, slamming his weapon into its skull. Nothing. The orc looked baffled. The thing was built like a tank. Shutra mentally facepalmed. Physical damage won't scratch that exoskeleton. It needed fire, but he hadn't unlocked those spells yet. The beast enraged, rushing Karak. Use fire, Shutra screamed. It is the only way to crack it. Karak looked panic-stricken. He didn't have a lighter. Suddenly, a voice told Shutra to raise his blade. Whoosh. Flame on. His sword was blazing. Magic Caitlin called out, asking if that was enough juice. He nodded, acknowledging the assist. Eyes on the prize. He locked onto the boss, waiting for that split-second opening. Then he struck. He danced around the beast, slashing with the flaming edge. The boss spider screeched as it caught fire. Flames consumed the monster. Ding Shutra's body radiated golden light. Welcome to level 9. Caitlin blinked at the glow. You okay? She asked. Shutra played it cool, claiming it was just a divine blessing. Totally normal stuff. She asked if it was from Gandharva. Yep, that is the one he bluffed. She narrowed her eyes. His reaction time was too pro. You fought these things before. He lied through his teeth. Read about them in a book, he claimed. Truth was, he had grinded these mobs 1,000 times in the game. He knew their mechanics inside out. Before she could press him, Karak pointed. Boss, look at that door. They pushed inside. Shutra's eyes widened. A town portal. Karak gaped, shocked. His prince recognized the tech. Just a hunch, Shutra shrugged. But the architecture, definitely dwarven. In his Zephyr playthroughs, these were rare. But as a hero character, he had seen them plenty. Just needs a mana injection to boot up. He turned to Caitlin. Pretty sure that is a portal. Sarah inspected the design. He was right. Where does it go? Caitlin asked, scanning the walls for clues. Karak spotted some carving and flagged the prince. Shutra and Caitlin stepped up to examine the glyphs. Definitely not demon script. Looked like old dwarven runes. Karak looked at Caitlin. You read this. Why would she know dwarven? She shook her head. Sarah was stumped too. Then a voice cut through the silence. Gishka Mountains portal number 2. Linked to portal number 3. It was Shutra. He stood there, stunned he could actually read it. Ping, the system notification flashed in his vision. Ding, just like that, Dwarven language level 1, unlocked. Honestly, I had no clue the system could just download entire languages into my brain. Wild. Karak's eyes went wide. You can actually read these runes, I nodded, playing it cool. But Caitlin, she was giving me the side eye. Since when do you speak ancient dwarf? Sierra cut in, pointing to the bottom script. Translate that part. I squinted at the glowing text. It says, infuse mana, to jumpstart the mechanism. Caitlin, do the honors, I asked. She raised an eyebrow. Why not do it yourself? Time for a little white lie. My mana control, still trash, don't want to blow us up. Truth is, I have 0 mana. Nada. Buying the excuse, she stepped up. Whoosh. The orb flared to life, spilling blinding light across the cavern. The light coalesced into a 3D tactical map, the Gishka Mountains. A pulsing dot showed us here, while a second marker blinked ominously at portal number 3. That confirmed it. Ancient tunnels ran all the way to the other side. Karak grinned, his tusks showing. Jackpot. The Scarlet Lightning Tribe's main army. They're camped right in front of those peaks. I nodded, locking eyes with him. Which means we can flank them. A total surprise attack from the rear. Caitlin crossed her arms. Let's pause here. I need to strategize with my brother back at base before we make a move. Back at the tent, Chris was losing his mind. A portal, there. He looked at me like I was a saint. Shutra, you're literally a godsend for us right now. Then he got serious. Name your price. Anything within my power, consider it yours. I need to reward you properly, he insisted. Refuse, and I'll actually be offended. I smirked. So, I can ask for something totally unreasonable. Chris leaned in, intrigued. Try me. I dropped the bomb. Teach me the beast god fist art. The air left the room. Chris stiffened, eyes wide. Look, my level is too low to handle real weapons without fumbling. But skills, that's a different loophole. The catch was, the beast god fist is the lycanthrope royal family's crown jewel. We're talking an S-rank martial art. Absolute devastating power. Asking for this, yeah, it was borderline insane. I get it if you say no, I added quickly, reading the room. It's a big ask, probably impossible, so. Done. My jaw nearly hit the floor. Chris nodded. I can't show you the forbidden techniques, obviously, but the core aura that I can teach. He looked anxious. Is that enough? I stood there frozen in shock, which he totally misread as disappointment. You don't like it? No, it's perfect, I stammered. More than enough. Chris's expression softened, shifting into something solemn. Shutra. From today on, can I call you my brother? Brother. That word carried weight in this world. I let it sink in. Honestly, I didn't hate it. Actually, I loved it. I'd be honored, I said, gripping his hand. The tent lit up with grins. Finally, things were clicking. I was genuinely hyped to roll with this crew. Ping, a blue window popped up, alliance established, Chris and Caitlin moonlight. Relationship status normal. For now. Cut to dusk at the Scarlet Lightning camp. The orcs were scrambling. Inside, a brute was looming over their captive, knowing she wasn't just there for a fight. What's your real angle? She was bound tight. The orc sneered. Speak, princess. What brings royalty to a dump like this? Enter Felicia, Doomblade the 6th princess. Meanwhile, I was obsessing over my status screen. Strength, agility, everything was at 21. Except charisma. That stat was stuck at 17. Weird. Every level up used to boost everything by 2 points, but lately charisma was lagging, only ticking up by 1. Why the nerf, I wondered. In the original Night Saga game, appearance and charisma were two different beasts. Appearance was just your face value, literally. Charisma was the riz factor, how much people actually vibed with you. Whatever. My growth rate was already broken, so I couldn't complain too much. Bigger news, I was grinding close to level 10. In the lore, when main characters like Zephyr hit that milestone, their ultimate skills, Descendant of Darkness, the Chosen One, leveled up. My gut told me I was due for a major power boost. Just then, Karak's voice snapped me out of it. Hey, we're locked and loaded. Let's move, I ordered. Karak squinted at me. You're in a scary good mood today. Win the lottery, I kept my face blank. Nope, just focused. Karak marched to the center, rallying the troops. Move out, we hit the forest, dove into the cave system, and immediately got jumped by a wolf pack. We cut a bloody path straight to the objective, the door. Squad assembled me, Karak, Chris, Caitlin, Sierra. We found the robed scouts waiting. Report. Is the analysis done? A Lycan scout pulled back his hood. Confirmed, sir. The portal link is stable. Exit point is the Eska River deep in the Gishka Mountains. Chris eyed the ancient stone. Is it safe? The scout nodded. Solid as a rock. Zero fluctuations. That's dwarven engineering for you. Fire it up, Chris commanded. The mages channeled energy, and the orb exploded with light, projecting a live feed from the other side. Karak and I stood there slack-jawed. Seeing a warp gate on a screen is one thing. Seeing it in real life is mind-blowing. While I was geeking out, Chris and Sierra were already stepping up. Caitlin paused, glancing back at me with a smirk. You coming, or are you going to stare at it all day? I blinked, shaking off the trance. Right behind you. The robed Lycan double-checked the coordinates, target locked on the Eska River. Deep in the Gishka Mountains. Chris demanded a status check. The verdict. Systems green, 0 glitches. Typical dwarven engineering, this thing was built like a tank. Satisfied, Chris gave the signal to move out. The wolfkin flipped the switch. The orb exploded with blinding light, tearing open a window to the destination. Shutra and Karak were absolutely shook. Shutra was low-key freaking out, staring at a legendary gate in the flesh. Meanwhile, Chris and Sierra were already marching into the vortex, forcing Caitlin to whip around. Yo, you waiting for an invitation? That finally snapped him back to reality. Stepping through the dimensional gate, the squad vanished, reappearing instantly on the other side. But the view below the cliff caught Chris off guard. A massive military encampment sprawled out beneath them. He scanned the perimeter, running the numbers roughly 5,000 troops. If they wanted to cripple this beast, hitting the supply lines was the only play. Chris mapped the battlefield if General Vandal brings the thunder at the front gate. Their stealth unit could slip in the back and torch the food reserves. But Shutra sensed the vibe was off. The camp felt like a ghost town, way too few soldiers for a base this size. Once he pointed it out, the realization hit the squad. The main force was missing. Had the invasion already kicked off, suddenly Shutra's gaze locked onto movement on the horizon. A skirmish was breaking out. Channel aura into your eyes, Chris commanded. Shutra focused his energy, and the blurry distance snapped into high-definition clarity. A lone woman was tearing through a pack of orcs. Caitlin instantly recognized the attackers as the Lightning Tribe, but the victims, a mystery. Chris shook his head. Those weren't Vandal's men. No scheduled raids today, and the scale was way too small. Shutra zoomed in, analyzing the details: brown skin, silver hair, and distinct long ears. Dark elves, he realized. Caitlin needed a double take to confirm, so Shutra pointed out the smaller builds and the drakes they were riding. Suddenly, Chris signaled the unknown unit was breaking formation. Did their leader go down? Chris muttered, watching them retreat at breakneck speed. Karak scratched his head, completely lost. Is the show over already? Shutra's mind raced. Why the hell were dark elves in this sector? As the sun dipped below the horizon, they fell back to base to debrief. They patched a magical comms link to General Vandal. The big boss had already heard the intel about the dwarven portal and was ready to heap praise on Chris. How'd you pinpoint the location? Vandal asked. Chris didn't take the credit, immediately gesturing to Shutra. It wasn't me. It was the 9th Prince. Shutra played the just got lucky card, but honestly, seeing Vandal's face again hit him right in the feels. Vandal grinned, promising that Shutra was due for a massive loot drop back at the Demon King's castle. Before we talk rewards, Chris cut in, keeping it professional. What do you know about that clash outside the Lightning Tribe's base? Vandal's expression tightened. Likely the Dark Elves. Looks like a rogue unit joined the fray uninvited. Chris narrowed his eyes. Why would they do that? You sure they aren't reinforcements from HQ? Vandal admitted the intel was fuzzy, but it looked like a scouting mission that went swiftly down the drain. Then he dropped the bomb. We have a major crisis. The leader of that independent Dark Elf unit got snatched by the Scarlet Lightning Tribe. Is that why they were fighting? Chris asked. Shutra leaned in, needing a name. Who was leading them? Vandal's voice dropped an octave. Someone I know too well. The 6th Princess, Felicia Doomblade. Your sister. The squad froze. Felicia Doomblade, daughter of the 3rd Queen, Sylvia Doomblade, and the twin sister of the 5th Prince, Sylvan. Shutra's internal database began to whir. In the original game lore, Felicia and Sylvan were die-hard loyalists to the 4th Princess Anastasia's faction. That meant one thing to Shutra: enemy. So why was she here? His gut told him she was clout-chasing, trying to steal glory on the battlefield. Do those Scarlet Lightning scumbags even know who they caught? Chris demanded. Do they know? It's Felicia. Vandal shook his head. We haven't confirmed if her identity is blown yet. What's the play? Chris asked, eyes sharp. Vandal didn't hesitate. If she's breathing, we get her out. No negotiation, Chris pressed. Vandal scoffed. If we hit them first, we can dictate the terms, but I'm not bowing down to trash. Vandal signed off to gather more intel, promising to ping them if the situation shifted. The screen went black. Chris let out a cynical laugh. So, our oh-so-brilliant sister got herself captured. Caitlin shot him a glare. She's alive. We have to save her. Chris shrugged, his tone cold. Ideally, sure, but let's be real, it's not going to be a walk in the park. A botched rescue could wipe us out. But Caitlin slammed her hand down, figuratively speaking. She is family. We go. Chris paused, weighing the tactical nightmare against the moral obligation. He knew she was right, but risking his crew for a rival princess, tough sell. Shutra watched the gears turning in Chris's head. Back at the tent, Chris laid out the game plan. Vandal draws the main aggro, pulling the Scarlet Lightning main force. That's our cue to hit the rear. He pointed to the map. I'll dive straight into the center base, go full berserker to cause chaos. Caitlin, Shutra, you lead your squad. And execute the objective. Shutra needed it spelled out. By objective, you mean extracting our sister, right? Affirmative, Chris replied grimly. But we stick to the script. Torch the food, blow the armory first, then grab Felicia. But listen closely, if it goes sideways, you bail immediately. No heroics. We can't bleed out the whole squad just for Felicia. That hit a nerve with Caitlin. Chris cut her off cold. Zip it. He reminded her who was wearing the commander badge. Caitlin wasn't having it. Felicia was blood. She snapped back, refusing to let him talk about family like collateral damage. But Chris stood his ground. He wasn't about to let Felicia's reckless stunt tank the entire operation. Sutra caught the vibe instantly. Chris looked way too chill about leaving Felicia behind. Made him wonder, is there some bad blood there? Nightfall. Go time. The warriors surged forward, ready to absolutely wreck those Scarlet Lightning scumbags. From the ridge, Chris and his squad scanned the scene. The camp looked quiet, but guards were crawling all over the place. He held the line until boom. Explosions ripped through the camp, sending orcs flying. That was General Bandal's cue to rush in. Wipe them out. Meanwhile, Sutra's unit hung back in the shadows. Carrick was itching to move. The fight started. Why are we freezing? Hold for the signal, Sutra murmured. Suddenly, ogres smashed into the orc lines, catching them completely slipping. It was a slaughter. The ogres dominated while General Bandal watched the carnage unfold like a hawk, just observing, until he signaled the retreat. Up on the cliff, Chris watched the chaos brew. Timing is everything. Gear up, he ordered. We stick to the plan. Move out. He, Sutra, and Caitlin launched their assault. The Scarlet Lightning tribe never saw it coming. Total ambush. They crushed the opposition. Watch your six, Sutra, Caitlin yelled. You too, he shouted back. Mid-sprint, Sutra glanced at his minimap interface. Hard left. We're making a beeline for the food storage. Karak roared, kill him, all leading the pack. But a massive orc swung a haymaker right at him. Karak was wide open. Thwack Sutra saved his hide, burying a dagger right in the orc's skull. Skill unlocked, dagger throwing level 1. Bullseye. He smirked, pretty satisfied with that shot. Karak looked at him puzzled. Since when do you throw knives like that? Sutra shrugged. No big deal. Truth is, he'd just been spamming throws last night, and the skill popped up. Suddenly, Karak pointed. That tent looks like the storage. Torch it, Karak asked. Light it up, Sutra confirmed. But then a thought hit him. Felicia. If she's trapped in there, burning it down kills her. Hold up, he told Karak. We need to secure Felicia first. How Karak grunted. Sutra pulled up his minimap. Felicia should show up as a neutral NPC. Looking for a blue or purple blip. Gotcha. This way, he dove into the tent. Bingo. But the room looked empty until a voice called his name. Deep in the shadows, there she was. Chained to the floor inside some glowing magic circle. What are you doing here? She gasped. Save the chat for later, Felicia. Just hold still. Every second here was a gamble. He worked fast to cut her loose. Honestly, he was banking on her owing him a massive favor after this. Felicia kept quiet as they barely made it out. Move it. We need to link up with Chris and Caitlin. That stopped her cold. Chris and Caitlin came for me, Sutra frowned. Yeah, that surprises you. You act like they weren't supposed to save their own squad mate. With Sutra out of the succession game, maybe he missed some internal drama. Felicia opened her mouth to explain, but Karak cut in. Hostiles incoming, Karak barked. Sutra grabbed Felicia, guiding her. She blinked. He actually used her name. Since when are we on a first-name basis? Suddenly, her eyes went wide. Sutra, behind you. Thwack, agony spiked through him. Then whoosh, flame swallowed him whole. Karak and Felicia froze, watching the fire rage. Panic set in for Felicia. An orc rushed her, and she braced herself, annoyed, but then a flash caught her eye. Bam, a fireball blasted the orc right in the face. What the? She spun around, spotting a shadow in the smoke. Sutra walked out of the haze like a boss. System mana control, level 1 acquired. Fire arrow, level 1 acquired. He wore a grin that screamed pure confidence. He unleashed hell, spamming fire arrows like a maniac. He went into a frenzy, burning every orc in sight to a crisp. The rush was insane. Level 1 magic. Felt like God mode. Then he sensed it. Ice. A chill ran down his spine. An enemy archer was knocking a frost arrow, aiming straight for Felicia. Felicia ran to check on him. Get back, he roared, shoving her away. She stumbled back, shocked. Thwip, the arrow struck. But he didn't shove her to save her, he wanted to tank that hit. He looked almost manic. The ice slammed into him, kicking up a cloud of freezing mist. The mist cleared, revealing him standing tall. System ice arrow, level 1 acquired, just as planned. 0 expectations, 0 grace. He hit the dirt hard, landing right on his backside as his health points plummeted into the danger zone. We're talking critical condition here. His HP bar was flashing red, 13 out of 95. One more hit like that, and it's game over. Out of nowhere, a voice sliced through the air, calling him a total moron. It was Felicia, bringing the attitude. She demanded to know who authorized this rescue mission. Face flushed bright pink. She started chewing him out, but the vibe was off. In her eyes, he's the runt of the litter, the weakest sibling who needs protecting, not the other way around. She definitely got the wrong idea. Then he noticed the tower enemy was already face-planted in the dirt. Eyes wide, she demanded to know when the heck he learned magic. He stood there stunned. She actually one-shotted that mage. It clicked. She thought he took that hit on purpose to be her hero. Without warning, she yanked the ice shard from his chest. He let out a blood-curdling scream as a vibrant green light erupted. Healing magic. He watched mesmerized as the gaping hole in his chest knitted itself back together. Ping skill acquired. Heal level 1. Just like that, the wound was erased. That's the genius mage Felicia Doomblade for you. She checked on him, asking if his legs still worked. He smirked, telling her thanks to that his blood was fully topped off. Felicia tilted her head, totally lost. What blood? Their little moment got cut short by a deafening roar. The ground shook as a massive ogre came thundering toward them. Felicia panicked, demanding an ID on the beast. He clocked it immediately, a blood ogre, a nasty, mutated variant. Her eyes widened. She realized the only exit was right behind that hulking monstrosity. Yup, he confirmed. The beast closed the gap and unleashed a ear-splitting scream, sending them scrambling for cover. Sutra's mind raced. How do you even damage a tank like that? The blood ogre lunged. For a giant, it moved with terrifying speed. Despite the size difference, it was on them instantly. Felicia shouted, "A plan, buy me time, I'll blast it into orbit." He had zero clue how to stall a monster that big. Boom, the ground erupted. He sighed, guess he's playing bait. He agreed to draw aggro while she charged her spell. She looked at him blankly. What? Ignoring her confusion, he yelled for Karak. Karak answered the call. He told the orc to run the same play as last time. Get ready to rumble, big guy. Inventory open. He needed the clutch item, the dwarven dagger. He equipped it in a flash. With a grit of his teeth, he stabbed the blade into the earth. Light exploded from the ground as he activated the buff, under the king's banner. The radiant energy surged into Karak, engulfing him in power. The orc roared, feeling the strength coursing through his veins. The blood ogre paused, confused. Karak launched himself at the enemy. The ogre was 3 times his size, but Karak didn't flinch, swinging his axe with enhanced fury. The impact was heavy. The blood ogre buckled under the sheer force. Karak wound up for a second strike, burying the axe into its gut. The monster groaned, staggering back. Suddenly, a shimmering hologram of Felicia materialized right next to the beast's face. While the ogre swiped at the decoy, the real Felicia sprinted in. She cast grease, turning the floor into an ice rink. The giant slipped and slammed down hard. Karak saw the opening. This was the finisher. He channeled every ounce of power into his weapon for one final blow. The axe connected dead center, bullseye. The blood ogre howled in agony before coughing up a fountain of blood. Sutra watched the boss fall. Victory tasted sweet. Sure, there were mobs left, but the raid boss was toast. Suddenly, a golden aura wrapped around him. A system window popped up. Sweet XP. Ding, level 10 reached. Even better, his protagonist setting adjustment leveled up. He stared at the screen, hyped. Because of the level 2 adjustment, he unlocked a brand new passive skill. He cracked open the gift box reward. Item obtained, battlefield protection level 1. Effect, enemy projectile accuracy severely nerfed. He grinned. He knew exactly what this was, the stormtrooper effect. Every movie fan knows the vibe. Hundreds of bullets can fly, but somehow the main character never catches a single stray. They all miss by an inch. With this skill, he could literally replicate plot armor. Just in time too, the rest of the enemy horde was charging. Felicia yelled at him to wake up as the swarm closed in. She was done playing nice. Unleashing her rage, she cast Wind Whirl. A violent tornado ripped through the battlefield, sending enemies flying. Sutra analyzed the move. It looked like magic, but his gamer instincts told him otherwise. That wasn't mana, that was a spirit. Corrupted or not, elf blood doesn't lie. Felicia wasn't just a mage, she was a born spirit summoner. A weird thought crossed his mind, could he tank a hit from that? He had a reckless, excited grin on his face. Suddenly, the dark sky lit up yellow. Everyone froze. Karak asked what the flare meant. Sutra knew the code. Retreat. Karak was confused, but Sutra's brain was working overtime. A retreat flare. Someone important must be in trouble. Karak looked to him for orders. He made the call. Take the troops and fall back. I've got to save Caitlin. Karak didn't hesitate. He was coming too. But the prince shut him down. Orders were absolute and there might be a 4D chess move behind the retreat. Karak tried to push back. But Felicia stepped up to the plate, volunteering to escort Shutra instead. She wasn't about to owe anyone a favor, seeing this as the perfect chance to clear her debt. Plus, she had unfinished business with those pig-faced freaks. Defeated, Karak decided to trust the plan and wait for the prince topside. Catch you in a bit, Shutra said. As he and Felicia blitzed toward Caitlin's location, she grilled him on why the sudden detour was necessary. He played it cool, better safe than sorry, given that sketchy retreat command. Felicia's stomach dropped. She realized Caitlin might have been nabbed just like she was. Shutra hoped that wasn't the case. The plan required the whole squad making it out alive. She noticed his genuine concern for Caitlin. He shrugged, saying it was only natural, seeing as they were siblings. But reality check, it was purely about preserving their political alliance. Felicia narrowed her eyes. That natural comment felt sus. Meanwhile, the orcs launched an ambush. Caitlin went full beast mode, liquefying the first wave with a single punch before unleashing a hellfire barrage from her rear. Another squad tried to flank her. Big mistake. She danced back, dodging their clumsy strikes, and unsheathed her weapon. With one clean swing, she decimated the entire group. Total wipeout. Shutra and Felicia arrived just in time to witness the carnage. Shutra relaxed. Looks like the damsel didn't need saving after all. Caitlin spotted Shutra, confused why he hadn't bounced yet. Came to rescue you, he admitted, but looks like you handled business. Caitlin tilted her head, trying to process his logic. Then she locked eyes with Felicia. Caitlin literally launched herself at the dark elf, tackling her in a massive bear hug. She was visibly relieved. Felicia turned beet red, mumbling about how Caitlin worries too much. Shutra noted the wholesome vibe, but then his minimap pinged. Red dots everywhere. The enemy was circling back for round 2. We gotta move now. Shutra took point, leading the charge, while the girls watched their six. They sprinted for the portal, where the army waited, barely slipping through the exit in time. The golden trio, Shutra, Felicia, and Caitlin, were finally safe. Felicia turned to Caitlin, needing to verify the rumor. Did Shutra really find the portal? Caitlin nodded enthusiastically, hyping him up as the absolute MVP of the operation. Felicia stared at the prince, stunned. When did this guy level up so hard? While the girls gossiped about his glow-up, Shutra went to debrief Karak. Chris scanned the survivor's relief, washing over him until Caitlin proudly showed off her souvenir, Felicia. Caitlin presented the dark elf like a trophy. Been a minute, Felicia said to Chris. Chris paused the silence, stretching painfully long. Yeah, it has. The air between them was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Pure, awkward tension. Later, in a secluded part of the cave, the core four, Chris, Felicia, Caitlin, and Shutra, held a war council. Chris dropped the intel. General Vandal secured the dub. Apparently, the enemy commander Yakazan rage quit after seeing his camp burn. Yakazan, Shutra asked. Caitlin jumped in with the lore drop, explaining that he was the chief of the Scarlet Lightning tribe. She looked at Shutra like, did you hit your head? Felicia cut to the chase. Did he surrender? Nope, Chris clarified. Looks like he tactically retreated. If he links up with the scattered mobs, he could still trigger a boss fight. That's why I'm planning to strike Kairam's forces next. If Yakazan joins them, it's going to be a massive headache. Strategy talk over Chris turned his glare on Felicia. So, what brings you to my neck of the woods? She claimed she was just exploring nearby ruins and got captured trying to play hero when the battle started. Chris drilled holes into her with his stare. Is that the truth? She shot back immediately. You calling me a liar? Sparks flew. Chris sighed, deciding not to press his luck today. He told everyone to rest up. The orcs feasted like kings, while the wounded patched themselves up. Shutra took a moment to check his stats. The grind was paying off, but, honestly, his combat kit was trash, except for that aura skill. Suddenly a voice snapped him out of it. Felicia. She was looking fresh in a new outfit. Can I come in? She asked. What's up? He asked, checking the time. She walked right up to him, said his name, and grabbed his arm. Shutra froze, especially when she dropped the bomb. Take off your clothes. His face went nuclear red. Shutra panicked. Was this turning into some weird step-sibling drama? Felicia repeated the order. Why, though? He stammered, his eyes accidentally taking a tour of her curves. Do you want treatment or not? She snapped. Shutra blinked, feeling dumb. She explained that what she did earlier was just a quick patch-up. He needed deep healing for internal damage. She started casting her magic. Shutra mentally slapped himself for being a perv. Suddenly she paused. Is there something wrong with your body? It was glowing earlier. Shutra played dumb. Nah, just a glitch. Happens sometimes. Changing the subject, he asked for a favor, something only she could do. A few moments later, the system pinged. Acquired Cure Level 1, which fixes status effects. Cure Poison Level 1, for toxins, and Cure Disease Level 1, for sickness. Shutra grinned. Thanks to Felicia being a willing test subject, his skill tree was looking juicy. 3 healing spells down. Check. But today is the main event he's been waiting for. Caitlin drops the lore. Beast Fist art isn't just one style. It's a massive skill tree. And finally, Sutra gets to unlock the werewolf branch. This is the raw feral combat style that defines the lycanthropes. It's basically the OG foundation for the legendary Beast God Fist. That has to be why Caitlin's drilling this specific set into him. Beast Fist harnesses both external power and internal flow. The mission today, master the basics of that internal energy. Close your eyes, she commands. Zone in. He feels it instantly. Aura, the pulse of life itself. It's the soul's jagged edge. Push that energy to the limit, and it practically becomes soul power manifest. Flash, a blinding light engulfs him. A system window pings, passive skill acquired. Protagonist's physique level 1. Whoa, he didn't see that coming. This skill is a cheat code that skyrockets training efficiency for any physical stats. And as the skill levels up, it unlocks hidden perks. Talk about a broken build. He's stacking the protagonist physique level 1 for muscle gains, the extreme demon's body level 1 for magic buffs, and hero's blood level 1 to juice up his divine power. He's not just keeping up with top tiers like Zephyr or Locke, he's rivaling them. And since traits unlock per level, this system is going to evolve into something monstrous. A grin spreads across his face. This is it. This is what main character energy feels like. He's buzzing with adrenaline. Caitlin snaps him out of it. He's losing focus. Eyes on the prize, she scolds. My bad. He shakes it off. Time to get serious and actually grind this skill. Boom. Beast Fist art level 1 secured. The kid is a natural. He executes the forms with terrifying speed and precision, even with empty hands. He looks like he's wielding invisible blades. Caitlin's about to drop the next combo when a wolf scout bursts in, howling bad news. Chaos erupts. Chris drops the bombshell. Kiram's unit ghosted, vanished into thin air. Kiram definitely caught wind of their play. Caitlin asks for the move. General Bandle's intel suggests the Yakuza and Kiram are linking up at a specific map coordinate. Given the terrain, it's a setup. Sutra knows they have to roll the dice. Chris makes the call. We merge forces. They're joining General Bandle's main army. It's no longer a skirmish. They're entering total warfare against the Scarlet Lightning tribe. Cut to the main base of the strike force. General Bandle stands there like a mountain welcoming Prince Chris. Chris shoots him a look. The old man hasn't changed a bit. Bandle gives a nod to the princess. It's been a minute since their last reunion. Felicia asks about the troops. Solid, he replies. Sutra watches Bandle, unable to hide a smirk. This guy was his absolute favorite character back in Night Saga. Even that scary, stern face feels nostalgic. Sutra steps up, introduces himself, and shakes the hand of a living legend. Meanwhile, in a dream realm, the goddess returns. But she's not alone. There's a warrior woman in heavy armor beside her. Golden curls, piercing blue eyes, and a face half hidden by a mask. Her armor is full plate and she's wreathed in swirling flames. They lock eyes with Sutra, staring right through him. An overwhelming pressure crushes him. Visions of conquest and war flood his mind. Gasp. He wakes up in a cold sweat. He knows the goddess with the mismatched eyes. But the armored flame girl, total mystery. Carrick rips the tent open. Let's move. We're rolling out. They pile out. The squad is scrambling. Sutra gets assigned to the left flank for the upcoming bloodbath. Bandle holds the center. Chris and Caitlin take the right wing. The swift Dark Elves form a Spec Ops rear guard. The march begins and hours blur into minutes. Suddenly, he's standing in the mosh pit of war, surrounded by thousands. He's so short he's drowning in a sea of ogre soldiers. General Bandle roars the command. Battle formation. He hypes the boys up. Show these bastards the true meaning of pain. The army charges. The enemy holds the line, their leader smirking like, look at these fools. Boom, a massive explosion rocks the rear guard. Bandle freezes. His eyes go wide. It's a trap. A colossal beast rises from the chaos. A swamp mammoth. Boss fight initiated. Boom, the ground shook as explosions ripped through the battlefield simultaneously. It was a massacre. Troops were getting ragdolled left and right. Absolutely zero time to react. Even seasoned fighters like Carrick and Shutra were rattled. Shutra's gut dropped. He realized they'd walked straight into a death trap. Those scumbags had the whole thing rigged from the start. Then came the heavy hitter, the swamp mammoth. But don't let the name fool you. This wasn't some museum exhibit. It was a hulking kaiju. A true monstrosity. Suddenly, a massive, scaly crocodile claw stomped into view. Enemy reinforcements swarmed in from nowhere. The squad looked back and saw lizardmen closing the net. Chris was seeing red. They had been played like fiddles this entire time. Caitlin made the call immediately. We need to bail, retreat, and regroup. But Chris clapped back. If they botched this withdrawal now, they wouldn't just lose the battle. It would be a total party wipe. Caitlin pointed to the battlefield. Bodies were stacking up fast, and the count was only rising. They had to make a snap decision. She pushed hard for the retreat. Chris finally snapped into commander mode. Mages, form a defensive wall at the rear. Buy us as much time as you can. The rest of the unit scrambled to fall back. It was chaos. Lizardmen were slicing through ogres like butter. One lunged straight for Shutra, but Karak blindsided the beast, smashing it before it could land a hit. He screamed at Shutra, "Wake up, kid. One slip up here, and they're all dead meat." Shutra snapped out of it, realizing this wasn't a game simulation anymore. It was real life. Chris was drowning in a sea of enemies hacking away. He roared his final order. "Survive, I command you to come back alive. Don't you dare die on me." Back at base, the lucky few who survived the ambush were getting patched up in the triage tent, while the brass, Chris, Caitlin, Felicia, Shutra, and General Bandal huddled for a high-stakes emergency meeting. Chris owned it immediately. "My bad. I should have seen it coming." General Bandal cut him off. No use crying over spilled milk now. They had two options left: pack up and go home, or beg the Demon King's castle for backup. Chris nodded grimly. He wasn't about to let his ego get the rest of his subordinates slaughtered for some pointless pride. He was about to call it quits when Felicia slammed the brakes. "Wait," she said, eyes lighting up. "I've got an idea." She spilled the tea. The only reason she was out here in the boonies was to raid a specific ruin. Her target, the tail end of the Gishka Mountains. Look, Felicia might be an S-tier mage, but in Night Saga, she's a total nerd, not a combat unit. All her stats are dumped into research and archaeology. She slapped a map onto the table. She'd been obsessing over a lost ruin, rumored to have been hidden in those mountains for 1,500 years. The name Enkidu, the Earth Dragon's lair. Enkidu, a dragon born from straight magma, hired an army of guardians to watch over his legendary loot hoard. We're talking about the dwarves of Gishka. Enkidu geared them up with insane weapons, just to guard the stash. The holy grail of items, the anvil that gives birth to thunder. This relic doesn't just let you control the Chimera Guardians. It lets you cast army-wiping magic. Felicia hit the table for emphasis. If we want that W, our only option is to find that anvil. That was her whole mission from day one. General Bandal narrowed his eyes. "Do you have the coordinates?" She admitted she didn't. That was the limit of her intel. Chris scoffed. "Useless. That wasn't tactical info." With enemies breathing down their necks, he wasn't risking his men's lives on a wild goose chase. He dismissed it as a foolish treasure hunt, which really ticked her off. But then Shutra dropped a bomb. "The anvil is there. 100%. Felicia blinked, totally stunned by his confidence. He knew it because he'd rated that dungeon as the hero lock back when he played the game. But aloud, he spun a lie. "I read about it in some ancient dwarven texts." Then he added the kicker. "And honestly, I trust Felicia." Her jaw dropped. She was visibly touched. But to him, this was just farming relationship points. Chris wasn't buying the power of friendship speech. "I don't care about trust, I care about time." Shutra was getting annoyed at how stubborn Chris was being. Shutra doubled down. "Even my tribe, the Gandharva, has legends about this spot. There's a high probability that the entrance is close. If I go scout it, I guarantee I'll sniff it out. If I screw up, put it on my tab. I take full responsibility." He looked Chris dead in the eye. "Trust me, just this once." Since Chris was being a brick wall, Shutra had to go all in. That night, they saddled up on Felicia's summon, the Phantom Steed. Who was getting airborne? The squad included Felicia, Caitlin, Shutra, Karak, and 2 extra grunts. Shutra was absolutely vibing on the success of the anvil mission. He was mentally planning his next move when Karak let out a blood-curdling scream. The orc was freaking out on the Phantom Steed. Shutra shouted back, "Hang on tight, big guy, or you're gonna become roadkill." Shutra assured him he'd survive. He had total confidence in the ride. Why? Because he mained Zephyr back in his gaming days. He glanced at the holographic minimap. Cruising at this velocity, they'd hit the ruin entrance in about 1 hour. And with his cheat code map, pinpointing the loot was the easy part. The real headache was guiding the party there without blowing his cover. He racked his brain for a solid excuse but drew a blank. He decided to just procrastinate until they landed. Trusting his gut to wing it, they touched down. He started spouting some nonsense about portal mechanics. He pretended to analyze the tunnel geometry. "See, there's a consistent mana flow in these layouts. Combine the terrain with the tunnel signatures and boom, I can basically triangulate the anvil." He peeked at the group to see if his technobabble landed. They just stared in total confusion. He prayed they wouldn't ask follow-up questions. Felicia sighed. "Whatever, just lead the way. I'm assuming you know your stuff. Take point." He couldn't believe that weak bluff actually worked on her. He marched forward, oblivious to Felicia's pouty face behind him. They trailed the prince until they hit a dead end. Karak gave him the side-eye. Boss, you sure this is the spot? Looks like a solid wall to me." Shutra smirked. "Who said anything about a door?" Caitlin smashed this open. Caitlin blinked, totally caught off guard. "Give it your best shot," he urged. Felicia's eyes widened. She realized the thunder-birthing anvil must be buried deep inside the cliff. Shutra's logic. If they bust through here, they skip the annoying dungeon guardians entirely. "Break the wall, Caitlin." Felicia snapped. Are you delusional? You expect her to punch through a mountain? She's a fighter, not a siege engine. Shutra froze, realizing he had no backup plan for the wall. Felicia summoned a swirling vortex in her palm. Rookie mistake. Every ruin explorer, miners in demolition, and explosives. She hurled the wind blast at the cliff. Boom, the rock face crumbled, revealing a hidden tunnel. She couldn't believe her eyes. Speedrun strats. Is the anvil inside? That half-dome. Shutra nodded. It's the final lock. The prize is inside. Carrack cracked his knuckles. So we break it. Shutra panicked. Do not smash. One wrong hit and the loot is toast. He frantically searched for a switch. Felicia watched him like a hawk. Then the statues caught her attention. Something was sus. Out of the 9 figures, 3 were armed, 6 were empty-handed. Caitlin pointed it out. Maybe we need to gear up the others. Felicia frowned. It's not that simple. Those statues are holding authentic dwarven steel, which means we need matching dwarven blades. Where are we going to find 6 of those in the middle of nowhere? Shutra suppressed a grin. Funny story. I actually have 6 right here. He pulled them from his inventory. He'd stashed them ages ago because his level was too low to equip them back then. Grabbed them as spares on the last run, he lied smoothly. Carrack's jaw hit the floor. You carried 6 broadswords in that bag. He was sharp. Shutra was starting to hate how perceptive this ogre was. He waved it off to avoid the question. Here, hold this, Carrack. It was heavy. Carrack whined about his frail back. As they slotted the swords, the statue's eyes flared with light. A mechanical grind echoed, and the half-dome split open. The suspense was killing them. Shutra gasped. It was real, the Anvil of Thunder. Felicia cut the celebration short. Wait, the records say we need an activation ritual. She barked orders. Shutra, Carrack, stay put. Everyone else take positions at 3, 6, and 9 o'clock. On my signal, pump mana into the disc. I'll kickstart the flow from here. And the rotation began clockwise. They needed to ramp up the mana output slow and steady. Everyone was locked in position. She barked at them to focus. As the energy released, she ordered Shutra to dig deeper, push the mana harder. When the levels hit the sweet spot, she commanded him to freeze it right there. One slip in concentration, and it was over. They held the line. Waves of mana slammed against the anvil. Shutra was fighting with everything he had to keep his footing. He was hitting his limit when boom. A pillar of light pierced the heavens. Thick smoke choked the entire chamber. Shutra blinked through the haze, totally disoriented. Suddenly, he was surrounded by warriors, and a beast. Legions of creatures all marching in perfect sync. He was completely lost in the chaos. A voice boomed like thunder. My vassals heed my words. Shutra snapped his gaze skyward. A massive shadow blotted out the light. A winged titan. It commanded them to defend the sacred nest of the great Enkidu. Their mission stand as the ultimate gatekeepers between the demon realm and the human world. Then, snap. Shutra was back. He was heaving for air, lungs burning. No doubt about it. That was a black dragon. Had to be the earth dragon Enkidu. Felicia, looking pale as a ghost, asked if he witnessed the nightmare too. She described a colossus of black scales with veins of molten lava. Carrack nodded grimly. He saw it too. Was it a shared hallucination? Felicia had a hunch, but the puzzle pieces weren't fitting just yet. She eyed the artifact. The anvil holds the truth. She hesitated for a split second, then slapped her hand on the metal. Blinding violet light erupted. Black mist coiled around her hand like a viper. She was losing control. Shutra lunged to stop her, shock written all over his face. Suddenly, Felicia let out a blood-curdling scream. Caitlin and Carrack watched in horror. Now Shutra was screaming too. A voice echoed in his skull. Conquer the earth dragon Enkidu. A mana trial for the unauthorized. To conquer means to dominate. No mercy. Caitlin and Carrack froze. Shutra stood there, body radiating light, gripping a pitch-black hammer. But he looked wrong. Possessed. His right eye was an abyss of black. Meanwhile, back at the base camp, an enemy scout peered over the cliff edge. The camp was sitting ducks between the canyon walls. The enemy smirked, total amateurs, thinking they were safe. Please. An orc grunt asked for the play, waiting on Lord Yakuzan's signal. Yakuzan surveyed his troops. Gear up. We're wiping out the leftovers. Down in the camp, the ogres spotted a flare tearing through the night sky. It wasn't a star. It was a bombardment. Fireballs rained down, obliterating tents and soldiers instantly. Then came the ground assault. Enemy forces led by a massive swamp mammoth crashed in. Chris was caught flat-footed. Panic set in. No, Caitlin. No, Felicia. They were staring down the barrel of total annihilation. Explosions rocked the valley, while Yakuzan watched from the ridge. He laughed, mocking the demons for their stupidity. They don't know their place. Destroy them all. Suddenly, an enemy mage froze up. Down below the swamp, Mammoth started glowing. Its eyes shifted color. It spun around and trampled its own masters. Yakuzan's smile vanished. What is happening? Chris watched from a distance, jaw on the floor. The cause. That black hammer. They actually found the artifact. Shutra was wielding it. Chris stammered. What is that thing? Felicia, weak but conscious, whispered, the thunder hammer. Mate to the anvil. Enkidu has chosen his champion. An elf propped Felicia up. Shutra stared at his hands in disbelief until Felicia shouted, use it. He gazed at the weapon. The dragon's mana flooded his mind with instructions. The command echoed, conquer, subjugate, obey. This was the anvil's true power, the birth of thunder. He hoisted the thunder hammer. Target locked the swamp mammoth. A violet beam erupted from the anvil. The beast was bathed in purple light and went berserk. The orcs were losing their minds. Why are they attacking us? To make matters worse, they were encircled. Vandal launched his counterattack. Vandal saw the mammoth crushing the Scarlet Lightning tribe. He grinned. The prince and princess actually pulled it off. He roared to his troops, "This is it, slaughter them, no survivors." They clashed in a frenzy of steel and blood. Yakuzan watched his plan crumble. Why is the beast betraying us? His adjutant was trembling. Someone's controlling it with god-tier mana. Yakuzan gritted his teeth. Pull back. We wait for the next opening. But Yakuzan wasn't having it. His face twisted in rage, but before he could move, boom! A massive explosion ripped through the air right behind him. The smoke cleared, revealing Chris. Chris stared him down ice cold. Game over, Yakuzan. Surrender now and I'll make your end quick and painless. Yakuzan didn't surrender. He spat a curse and lunged, screaming like a maniac. Chris just sighed, brows knitting together in annoyance. Beast God fist art. He moved faster than a heartbeat, a blur of lethal motion. Squelch. Yakuzan's head hit the dirt before his body even realized it was dead. The enemy adjutant and mage watched in horror, then scrambled, screaming, "The chieftain is down. Run." Absolute panic took over the enemy ranks. They were terrified. Now it was just cleanup duty for Chris's squad hunting down the stragglers. Chris exhaled, the adrenaline fading. He knew if it wasn't for those two reinforcements, his team would have been toast. He glanced up at the sky, praying the other front was holding up. Meanwhile, a magical HUD projected the battlefield chaos. Karak watched, jaw on the floor. He couldn't believe the point of view. They were seeing literally through the eyes of the swamp mammoths. Felicia, looking pale, explained, "With the anvil, I'm the puppet master. I can override every treasure guardian in range." She smirked weakly. With this kind of firepower, the Scarlet Lightning tribe is cooked. But the mana drain hit her hard. Her knees buckled. Thump. Luckily, the elf had reflexes of steel and caught her mid-fall. "Hey, you good?" Felicia waved it off, voice trembling. "Just, battery low. I need a recharge, I'll be fine." The soldiers looked around, nervously suggesting, "Maybe we find a safer spot to camp." But then the vibe shifted. Someone realized there was a void in the group. Shutra had ghosted them. Cut to Shutra, chilling in a quiet corner, finally catching his breath. Ding. The system went crazy with notifications. Level up. His stats were skyrocketing. Had to be the perks of controlling the relic of Enkidu. That XP gain was insane. Another ping flashed on his retina. Conquest skill leveled up. He swiped open the interface. Even his Under the King's Banner skill had hit the next tier. It seemed linked to Conquest. He didn't have all the specs yet, but the synergy was obvious. If his main skills were buffing each other, that was a massive win. Then he noticed a new entry, King's Knight. King's Knight, huh? Sounded like a summon class. Before he could theorycraft, a familiar voice snapped him out of it. Caitlin. Oh right. He dipped without saying a word. He opened his mouth to apologize. Whack, she delivered a solid knuckle sandwich right to his skull. "You idiot, you don't just vanish like that," she hissed. He rubbed his head, muttering a "my bad." Seeing he was in one piece, she sighed and let it slide. But the mission wasn't over. "We gotta bounce back to the group," she said. "Looks like we're camping here tonight." Shutra tilted his head. "Thought we were heading straight back to base," Caitlin grimaced. "Change of plans. We hit a snag." Shutra raised an eyebrow. The snag, Felicia was down for the count. Turns out she just got out of prison. After being held by the Scarlet Lightning tribe, the magic overuse fried her circuits. She pushed past her red line. Caitlin looked worried. She claims she just needs sleep, but she's comatose right now. And no Felicia means no Phantom Steed taxi service. They were grounded. For now, all they could do was monitor her vitals. Shutra felt a knot of worry tighten in his chest. That night, the whole camp was snoozing, but Shutra was wired. Maybe the level up refreshed his stamina pool, because strangely, he felt zero fatigue. He considered staring at the wall until sunrise, but then he remembered he was sitting inside an unexplored ruin. And ruins equals loot. Dungeons meant hidden caches and elite gear. Sure, usually there are traps, but he gripped the Thunderhammer. This bad boy was the admin key. He was basically the landlord of this dungeon now. The anvil's power was absolute inside these walls. In other words, he had a VIP all-access pass. He glanced at Karak, who was snoring peacefully on the stone floor. Shutra nudged him awake. "Get up, we're going looting." They crept down a torch-lit corridor. Karak was sweating bullets. Boss. Are we sure we should just walk in?" He looked ready to bolt. Shutra smirked, exuding main character energy. "I own this place. Nothing to worry about." He explained that since this was a ruin, there had to be legendary weapons stashed somewhere. That woke Karak up. He pushed open a heavy stone door and froze. Gasp. Standing there was a nightmare made of stone. Shutra waved a hand casually. "Chill. It's just an arch golem. Griffin model." Karak didn't chill. To him, it looked like a one-way ticket to the afterlife. If they had stumbled in here blind without the admin key, they would have been splattered on the walls. "Don't say stuff like that," Karak squeaked. "Let's get out of here." He was terrified of the dormant giant. He wasn't about that boss fight life. Shutra rolled his eyes. "Don't be a chicken." "I'm not a chicken, I'm strategic," Karak argued. They pushed into the next chamber. Jackpot. The room glittered with treasure. Karak's eyes bugged out as he lifted a massive chest plate. Look at this beauty. Shutra nodded. Looks sick on you. I can feel the mana humming from here. That's high-tier magic armor. He looked at the orc. You want it? Karak stopped breathing. For real, mine. Yeah, it's sized for a tank, not me. Take it. Karak looked like he might cry with joy. Then something else caught the prince's eye. Ancient gold coins glinting in the torchlight. Sutra went full loot goblin mode, sweeping every useful item straight into his inventory. He barked at Karak to grab everything that wasn't nailed down. Then, a lone treasure chest caught his eye. Curiosity piqued. He cracked the lid click. Instead of gold, a hidden mechanism triggered. A secret door groaned open. A secret instance. His adrenaline spiked. Heart pounding with anticipation, he stepped into the gloom. The narrow passage gave way to a massive, sprawling chamber. Suddenly, a voice echoed in his mind. A dense, familiar mana pulsed from the center of the room, beckoning him closer. He'd never laid eyes on it before, yet the name crashed into his consciousness, Enkidu. That was the legendary gauntlet Earthquake. Sutra locked eyes with the artifact. It spoke directly to his soul, hailing him as the valiant knight of Conquest. Drawn in by its call, he stepped forward. He reached out and grabbed it. BZZT system. Red flags popped up immediately. Insufficient level mana and mental strength. He was way under-leveled for this gear. He realized he wasn't worthy yet, but the gauntlet had other ideas. It flared with light, overriding the restrictions. Ping. The system confirmed Earthquake had chosen him as its master. Ownership transferred to Sutra instantly. As he slipped it on, his hand erupted in light, and searing pain tore through his nerves. He gritted his teeth, forcing himself to endure the burn. It was worth it. The stats were insane. Strength, mana, and endurance, all boosted by a solid 10 points. A 10-point jump just from equipping an item that was broken. He hadn't expected a buff that massive. Just imagine the power scaling once he actually leveled up. A satisfied smirk tugged at his lips. This loot was definitely S tier. What just happened? Karak's voice boomed from behind, nearly making Sutra jump out of his skin. How long have you been standing there? Sutra demanded. The ogre shrugged, admitting he'd seen the whole light show, including the gauntlet materializing out of thin air. Crap. He hadn't accounted for an audience. If word got out about his spatial inventory ability, it would be a massive headache. But Karak wasn't stupid. He knew that kind of power attracted the wrong kind of attention. He swore to keep his mouth shut just between bros. The ogre vowed to take the secret to his grave. Sutra felt a rare moment of genuine gratitude. We got what we came for, Karak grunted. Let's bounce. This place gives me the creeps, Karak muttered, scanning the shadows. Bad vibes all around. Sutra nodded in agreement. They started trekking back through the treasure room, but suddenly something glittered in his peripheral vision. Hold up, Sutra commanded. The ogre groaned. What is it this time? Sutra just pointed silently toward a corner. Karak squinted, looking confused. Sutra smirked. That right there, that's exactly what we've been looking for. Cut to later, Sutra tipped a glowing potion into Felicia's mouth. Light enveloped her body as her eyes fluttered open. You with us? He asked, while Caitlin practically collapsed with relief. What happened? Felicia murmured. Caitlin explained. Sutra came through. He brought back a mana recovery potion. Where did you even find that? She asked weakly. Sutra raised an eyebrow. Did you guys forget where we are? They were in the ruins. And he was the ruler of the ruins, remember? He told her to chill and rest up. By the time you wake up, your mana will be topped off, he assured her. Felicia looked at him, eyes soft. Thank you. Sutra didn't catch it the first time. She repeated it louder, cheeks turning pink with embarrassment. Sunrise broke as they marched back into camp. Bandel threw his arms up roaring. They're back. He was beaming, claiming he knew they'd crush it all along. While Bandel praised the squad, Chris awkwardly cleared his throat. Sutra caught the vibe immediately. The guy was blushing and trying to speak. Chris turned to Felicia. You did. An impressive job. Felicia flipped her hair, acting cool. Naturally. Sutra watched the sparks fly, a knowing smirk plastered on his face. Go get some rest, Chris told them, regaining his composure. We'll handle the cleanup. Sutra blinked. Wait, it's not over. Chris explained that the remnants of the Scarlet Lightning tribe were still lurking around. Give us half a month, Chris said. We'll have this place fully secured by then. Sutra's eyes lit up. 2 weeks of downtime, vacation time, but Caitlin leaned in her voice dark. Vacation. In your dreams, she whispered, getting way too close. Sutra flushed. With her own cheeks turning red, she reminded him, you and I still have unfinished business. Cut to a beautiful sunny day, and Sutra getting absolutely decked by Caitlin's fist. Focus, she yelled. Get it together or you're gonna hurt. Get your ass up now. He groaned, barely able to twitch. He knew the beast fist art training would be tough, but this was torture. That unfinished business she mentioned, yeah, it was just her beating the crap out of him for training. For the first 5 days, he was basically a punching bag. It took a full week before his eyes could even track Caitlin's lightning-fast strikes. Day 11. He squared up against her. This time, he wasn't just taking hits, he was reacting. Caitlin noticed the shift immediately. Not bad, she thought. Took me long enough, he panted, wiping blood from his lip. All those brutal beatings were finally clicking into muscle memory. Thanks to the hellish daily grind, both his beast fist, art, and aura had just hit level 5. Caitlin nodded, satisfied. You're ready. Time to learn the Beast God Fist art. Sutra's fatigue vanished, replaced by pure hype. I'm impressed, she admitted. I've never seen anyone learn this fast. A massive proud grin spread across Sutra's face, realizing he'd finally unlocked the secrets of the lycanthropes, the ultimate Beast God Fist art. It was time for Caitlin to show him a whole new way to channel aura. She gripped his hand tight, warning him to pay close attention and match her flow. You got this, she asked. Yeah. Boom. Their hands lit up, and that blinding blue energy swallowed him whole. He could feel Caitlin's energy surging through him, guiding the way. It felt familiar, like the Beast Fist, but evolved, different. He sensed the sheer depth of it. Waves of aura, the raw pulse of life itself. But when you push that power to the absolute limit, it transforms into something spiritual. Soul power. As his mind started to drift, his thoughts locked onto the concept of conquest, which meant total domination, forcing the world to kneel. A ferocious, overwhelming pressure. It felt like sinking into the deep ocean. Was this the true nature of aura? The light around them flared brighter, blinding white. Then that familiar system ping chimed in. His Beast Fist proficiency and aura stats just spiked. Caitlin stared at him, totally shook that he actually pulled it off. Blue energy wreathed his hands, and the system dropped the big news. Beast God Fist, Art Level 1, acquired. With the Earthshaker in mind, he let the power rip. He dissipated the aura, and wham, a massive shockwave blasted out, gouging a crater right into the earth. Level 14 unlocked. He smirked. This wasn't just training anymore. The real game had just begun. But he missed one detail. Someone was watching from the shadows. Vandal. And that dude had a very satisfied look on his face. Next morning, Shutra and Caitlin grabbed some breakfast. But Shutra had business on his mind, specifically about Felicia. He had to know what's the deal with her, and Chris Shutra needed Felicia on his squad, just like Chris. But if those two had beef, it was going to be a major headache for his master plan. He noticed they weren't enemies, but the vibe was definitely icy. Caitlin admitted it wasn't due to some specific drama, at least not directly. She wasn't 100% sure, but her gut said it had something to do with Chris and Sylvan. The second Shutra dropped that name, Caitlin snapped. Even if Sylvan wasn't there, you don't just toss that name around casually. Shutra apologized, explaining he was just caught off guard. Felicia's twin, Sylvan Doomblade. Back when Shutra played as Zephyr, that guy was an absolute nightmare to deal with. Just as he pressed for details on the Chris-Sylvan drama, Chris burst into the tent out of nowhere. They jumped. Caitlin asked why he was back so soon. Chris didn't waste time. Pack it up. We're done here early. We move out this afternoon. Shutra asked where they were headed, and Chris gave him a look like, are you for real? Job's done, so we report back. Before they left, Vandal stepped up to shake Shutra's hand, giving props to the prince and princess for their grind. He looked the ninth prince in the eye and said he hoped their paths would cross again. I'll be waiting, Shutra shot back. Chris yelled, we ready? Yeah. Next stop, the Demon King's castle. Meanwhile, back at the fortress, the vibes were straight up sinister. A massive figure sat on the throne, decked out in full plate armor. The big boss. The trip back was pretty straightforward. Step 1, hit the long-range teleportation circle. Step 2, use transfer magic to warp directly into the Demon King's castle. Easy. But getting to that first circle was a 3-day trek. And this wasn't a luxury cruise, no ins, no breaks. Just non-stop movement, meaning another night of sleeping under the stars was locked in. They'd hit the castle by tomorrow, and Shutra was feeling the pressure. Right now, that place was a shark tank split into 3 factions. You had the second prince Zephyr Ragnaros, Shutra's ultimate nemesis. Then the first prince Baikal Ragnaros, and the fourth princess Anastasia Necron. In this battle royale for the throne, birth order meant 0. It was pure meritocracy. Stack up achievements, show superior power, and you take the top spot. That was the law. Baikal and Zephyr, full brothers, and dead even in skill. They both carried the draconian bloodline from their mother's side, giving them insane physical strength. If you had to pick an heir right now, the chill, moderate eldest son, Baikal would be the smart bet. But Shutra knew none of that mattered. A specific day was coming that would flip the whole script. That's why he had to prep for every scenario. Priority 1, power leveling. He needed to master the Earthshaker and maximize his new cheat skill, the King's Knight. He triggered the skill. Boom. Knight Order created. Shutra thought it was just another summon gimmick. But the system UI showed way more. Rank Knight Commander. Current roster, 0 out of 2. Trainees, none. Time to recruit. He checked his stats and realized he was sitting on a gold mine. Knight Order was at level 1, unlocking the Knight's Blessing, a massive passive buff to his health pool. But the real game changer was the special ability Summon. Even at level 1, it allowed him to call forth a Knight Commander once every 3 days. It was basically a full-blown guild system packed into a single skill. He couldn't believe how broken this was. It was already OP at level 1. Just imagining how god tier this would become in the late game got him hyped. Suddenly, Karak stormed in, busting him for being awake. The ogre started nagging him again, telling him to hit the sack if he wanted to survive the early morning departure. Karak was impatient to get moving. Shutra just smirked at him. Actually, you're right on time. He invited the big guy to be a guinea pig for a little experiment. Karak actually flinched. What experiment? Carrick grunted. Under the pale moonlight, Shutra raised his sword and spoke with authority. Mighty ogre warrior, Carrick. He formally appointed Carrick as his knight. A strange light engulfed the ogre's body. Carrick felt a shift deep in his gut. His loyalty stat was skyrocketing. Boom. Carrick level 24 instantly evolved into a knight commander and a rank 1 soldier. The experiment was a total success. Shutra was beaming. Carrick flexed, confused by the sudden overflow of power, but definitely not complaining. Shutra grinned. You want to become the strongest ogre in history. Caught up in the adrenaline, Shutra started rambling about raising him into the legendary ogre emperor from the Knight Saga lore. Carrick squinted at him with pure suspicion, asking if he was running a fever or just losing his mind. The next morning at the tower, Chris and the squad approached the teleportation gate. He looked back at Shutra. You ready for this? Let's do it, Shutra replied. They stepped into the magic circle and zap, a pillar of light blasted them straight into the sky. Transition to the other side, Shutra felt his stomach drop, terrified he was free-falling face first into the abyss. But he stuck the landing perfectly. You good? Caitlin asked, checking on him. Yeah, I'm solid, he breathed. Suddenly, a voice shouted Lady Felicia. Her personal entourage had been camping out for her return. She dove into the chat, soaking up the attention. To Shutra, it looked like a literal fan club. He realized those were her subordinates. Then a delegation marched over to officially welcome Chris and Caitlin. Shutra looked around crickets. There was nobody for him. The dark elves started whispering, snickering as they eyed him. The message was loud and clear. He was at the bottom of the food chain in the Demon King's castle. He shrugged it off. He knew the score anyway. He turned to his partner. You ready, Carrick? Because this was ground zero. From here on out, they were going to flip the script on this entire castle, one move at a time. They were led to their new digs, a dusty, glorified broom closet that looked like a storage unit. This was home base. Shutra was just grateful to have a roof over his head. Carrick started unpacking but paused, realizing something. The official event schedule didn't kick off until tomorrow. That meant free time. Shutra sighed. Doesn't feel like freedom when we're left to rot in a dump like this. Suddenly, a sharp knock echoed on the door. It was Flora Seven's ward from the castle's real estate management bureau. Shutra raised an eyebrow. Why is a high-ranking official visiting a hole in the wall like this? She smiled professionally. Your public merit level has spiked. You are now eligible to upgrade your residence immediately. Then Isabella from the Office of Public Merit strolled in. Is it true? Shutra asked. Can I really move? You came to the right place, she replied, swiping open a holographic interface. Ding. Conquest complete. His merit level had officially hit level 5, racking up a total of 15,000 points. The system started scrolling through his highlight reel. Discovered the dwarves' secret mine and portal check. Crushed the Scarlet Lightning Tribe's chief check. His elite unit executing the mission flawlessly. Done. Saving the 7th princess. Big check. Rescuing Felicia Doomsblade. Leading the frontal assault and claiming the legendary Thunderbirth Anvil. And finally bringing the entire Scarlet Lightning Tribe under his banner. The rewards were instantaneous. Restricted sections of the Demon King's castle were now unlocked, and his monthly allowance just went vertical. It jumped from a pathetic 5 gold to a staggering 500. He was the first prince in history to bag this much loot on a debut mission. Show me the mansions. Now. Later that day, Carrick's jaw hit the floor. He couldn't believe this was their new crib. Flora bowed to them. We prepared this early for you. It is an honor to serve. Effective immediately, Flora was functioning as his headmaid and butler. She was a devout follower of Camilla, the goddess of dreams and shadows. Karak scratched his head. Wait, didn't you say you worked in real estate? I hired her using merit points, Shutra explained. It was basically premium currency earned by being a total boss. He didn't bother explaining the mechanics. No need for Karak to get a headache over the details. You're speaking gibberish again, the ogre grumbled. The next morning they were decked out in formal wear. Karak shifted uncomfortably. I keep feeling like I got a leak. Is it just nerves? He asked. That's gross, dude, Shutra sighed. Just go handle it already. He ramped up the tension by announcing a sudden arrival, only to hit them with a massive compliment. You guys look fire. Turns out Felicia had styled their entire aesthetic personally. Caitlin didn't miss a beat. I'm the best, aren't I? She chirped, noting that the grind finally paid off. She turned to Shutra, grinning. And look at you. Sharp as hell. He got flustered, stammering out a thank you before shooting the compliment right back. You both look stunning. That got them cheeks flushed red instantly. Then Chris rolled up. He clocked that this was Shutra's big debut at an audience ceremony. He clapped a hand on his shoulder. Today, you're the main character. Go out there, Chris urged. Make everyone in the Demon King's castle acknowledge you. Shutra straightened his back. Count on it. He knew the whispers were already starting. The doubters who chalked his wins up to dumb luck. As he scanned the room, the heavy gaze of the vassals bore down on him. But Shutra wasn't backing down. Watch me, he thought. Soon you won't be able to look away. The doors groaned open and the royal siblings strode in. He was ready to force them to reevaluate the worthless prince they'd written off. In unison, the siblings dropped to one knee before the ultimate power. The Demon King sat on the throne, a looming shadow. Chris broke the silence, voice booming as he introduced himself to the absolute ruler of the demon realm. Demon King Mitra peered down at them, golden eyes piercing through the gloom framed by brown hair and a thick beard. Surprisingly, his features were almost human. Beside him, an aide stepped forward, ready to list the siblings' accolades one by one. This was the patriarch, the father of every demon, prince, and princess standing in that hall. Shutra had momentarily forgotten the golden rule. In this castle, Mitra was the one entity you never ever underestimated. Kneeling there, the pressure was crushing. Physical, heavy. Just existing in Mitra's presence felt like his body was being ground into dust. Then the goddess's voice cut through the fear. Conquer. A warm golden light ignited in his chest. Remember, she whispered, you are a king too. She urged him to fight back, to take that suffocating gaze and crush it under his own will. The golden glow surged outward from his core, the power of conquest. Fueled by it, Shutra lifted his head, locking eyes with the monster on the throne. Mitra met his stare and spoke his name. The room went dead silent. Jaws hit the floor. Shutra didn't flinch, holding the gaze even though his heart skipped a beat. Then the unthinkable happened. I look forward to your future achievements, Mitra rumbled. Pandemonium in the throne room. Confusion rippled through the crowd. The Demon King never addressed the princes directly. Not by name. Not in a formal audience. So why him? Why the ninth prince, the invisible nobody? The words were basic, but coming from the Demon King. It was unprecedented. A historic anomaly. That made the praise priceless. Shutra bowed low. I will do everything in my power to exceed your expectations. And just like that, Shutra Ignis crushed his debut audience, searing his image into the minds of everyone present. Crack of dawn. Shutra blinked awake, groggy and confused. Karak, what's going on? The sun was barely up. Karak held out an envelope. Letter from the Office of Public Merits. Just got here. Shutra took it, mind racing. Why now? He tore it open, and his eyes widened in surprise. Karak leaned in, dying of curiosity. Well, read it. Shutra hesitated, a weird mixture of dread and excitement settling in his gut. It was a direct order, a personal mission from the Demon King himself. Later, Shutra debriefed Chris and Caitlin. Subjugate the Cassius herd. Translation, go exterminate a bunch of monsters. That means you're headed to the Anger Plains, Caitlin noted. Shutra nodded, Centaur territory. Chris and I trained there once, she added. Apparently wiping out the Cassius herd was practically an annual tradition for the royals. Chris looked ready to gear up, but they had their own grind to handle. Caitlin smiled warmly. Don't worry, Shutra's got this. Solo mission. But Chris frowned, voice lowering. People are watching you now. They're going to try to get close. Or they'll be watching for a mistake. Watch your back. Shutra knew he was right. Even Zephyr had mentioned the anomaly. Getting name-dropped by the king changed the game. If things get hairy, come to me, Chris said seriously. Shutra nodded, grateful. Thanks, brother. Oh, and see Felicia before you bounce. She's got something for you. By the time Shutra packed up, the sky was still gray. Felicia was waiting. She knew trekking through Centaur lands was a nightmare, so she hooked him up with top-tier mounts. Shutra thanked her, but she wasn't done. She held out a shimmering gem, a dark elf's tear. Shutra froze. She was handing over a sacred racial treasure. Under normal circumstances, you'd have to kill Felicia just to get your hands on one of these. We dark elves are proud, she murmured. We never forget a kindness. Or a grudge. Then she pulled him into a tight hug. Come back in one piece, okay? Shutra blinked, face heating up. He hadn't expected the affection. He opened his mouth to reply. And she shoved him away. Hard. She looked away, flustered, realizing she might have let her guard down too much. Shutra and Karak loaded the mounts onto the teleportation circle. As the magic hummed to life, he waved. Stay healthy, Felicia. See you soon. Then a flash of light, and he was gone. Felicia watched the empty space, a soft smile on her lips. Okay. Angle planes. Boom. Shutra Karak and their mounts materialize out of thin air. Karak scans the horizon, making sure the teleportation actually stuck. Suddenly, a presence hits them from the 6 o'clock position. Greetings, Ninth Prince. It's Karma, the ranger assigned to be their GPS in this wild territory. Shutra takes a sec to process the visual human from the waist up, pure beast horsepower from the waist down. He keeps it smooth. Pleasure to meet you. She bows, dropping a humble brag about it being an honor despite her monstrous form. Shutra just nods. He knows a centaur when he sees one. No time for small talk. They launch immediately, tearing across the plains at breakneck speed. Shutra and Karak are barely holding on to their mounts. Mid-gallop, Karma drops the ETA. It's going to be a grueling 2-day sprint to hit the main centaur settlement. Her plan, full throttle, minimal stops, just pure endurance. Shutra doesn't even blink. Lead the way. She glances back, doing a quick head count. Where's the army? Shutra shrugs. Emergency deployment. Just us two for now. Karma doesn't panic. We've got the centaur tribes. We won't be outnumbered. Shutra's tactical brain starts spinning. This is going to be a massive group brawl. And in a chaotic melee like that, weapon choice is everything. Mounted combat means range is king. He needs a spear stat. Snap. A noise cuts through the wind. Shutra signals. What was that? Karma holds a hand up. Hold position. I'm on it. She blurs forward, skidding to a halt at the edge of a cliff. Her eyes go wide. What she sees down there makes her blood run cold. The Cassius herd. They shouldn't be here. These wolf monsters are ferocious, and right now they're hunting a lone centaur. Teeth bared, growling like chainsaws. The prey is paralyzed with fear, but Shutra. He doesn't hesitate. He slams his mount into the leaping wolf, knocking the beast out of the air like a wrecking ball. His ride stumbles but finds its footing. The rescued centaur stares at Shutra like he's a ghost. But the wolf pack, they aren't running. They're swarming. Looks like the welcome party arrived early. Perfect. Shutra's been itching to throw hands anyway. Womb. His gauntlet lights up with neon energy. Come get some mutts, the centaur gasps. Wait, are you the prince? The alpha steps up a massive scarred creature. It roars, shaking the ground, and charges straight for Shutra. No minions. Boss fight. Now. Karma and Carrick scream from the backline. Prince pull back. Carrick is losing his mind over the reckless charge. Too dangerous, but Shutra ignores the warning. I'm good, just watch. He bails off his mount mid-stride, launching himself directly at the alpha. Mid-air, he winds up. He's betting everything on the Beast God Fist, the ultimate technique he's been grinding to perfect. The energy output is insane. The alpha roars, Shutra roars louder. Fist of explosion impact. The shockwave nearly knocks Carrick and Karma off their feet. Silence. The dust clears. The alpha's body is there, but its head, gone, cleanly decapitated. One hit. The rest of the pack freezes in pure terror. They scramble tails between their legs, running for their lives. Even Shutra stares at his hand, stunned. Did I just do that? The gauntlet didn't just hit. It amplified his aura like a natural disaster. The destruction was way above his pay grade. That felt like Caitlyn-level power. Carrick runs up, hyping him up. Boss, you blew its head off in one strike. That was legendary. Shutra smirks, feeling the adrenaline. The rescued centaur bows low. I am Swift Wind. You saved my life. Turns out he's a scout. I'll take it from here, Prince. Swift Wind takes point, guiding them toward the settlement. They ride off into the Angle Plains sunset. But the camera pans back to the dead alpha. The corpse starts glowing with an ominous light. Not good. Destination reached, the Centaur settlement. Home to the Big Four tribes, Fierce Wind, Heavy Rain, Rough Night, and Raging Flame. Raging Flame runs the show, and their leader holds the title of High Chieftain. He's the one calling the shots for everyone. Shutra walks in to meet the legend himself, Savage Eyes. The atmosphere is heavy. If you played Night Saga Demon Realm chapter, you know this guy. He's a hardcore boss encounter, never an ally, always a nightmare. Carrick whispers, voice trembling, look at that glare. The rumors are true. He looks like he eats people for breakfast, but Shutra stands tall. He's the 9th prince, and he knows the script. Savage Eyes tries to intimidate him, but Shutra locks eyes fierce and unblinking. Report, the chieftain barks. No pleasantries. They step into the war tent, and Savage Eyes drops the bomb. Situation is critical. The Cassius herd shouldn't be this far south. It's an anomaly. They migrated months ahead of schedule. The scouts are confused. Is this a migration or an invasion? Some think the beasts are just lost. But Savage Eyes doesn't deal in maybe. In the original game, Savage Eyes is an unrecruitable NPC, a scripted obstacle. He tells Shutra the plan. 3 days, we gather all 4 tribes. Once we unite, we crush them. Simple. It's a brute force strategy for a warrior race. But Shutra is hoping to rewrite the code. I'll wait, he says calmly. Is that all? Savage Eyes narrows his gaze. 9th Prince. My scouts say you smashed a Cassius Alpha's skull with a single punch. Verify. Shutra flashes a confident, dangerous grin. Every word is true. He's thinking big. He flipped Chris and Caitlyn. He can flip this guy too. If you don't believe me, Shutra says, casually checking his gauntlet, stick around. I'll give you a live demo later. Savage Eyes sized him up, a grin spreading across his face. He was definitely down for whatever chaos was coming next. Stepping out of the tent, the vibe shifted instantly. Every centaur head turned. The camp was buzzing with gossip about Shutra crushing a Kashu warrior's skull with a single brutal hit. Carrick clocked the atmosphere immediately. It was giving Major General Vandal energy. Shutra was trending again. Soaking in the clout, Shutra boasted that it was just his natural charisma doing the heavy lifting. Carrick rolled his eyes instantly, regretting he even brought it up. With a heavy sigh, he told the prince to go crash. Later that night, Shutra was out cold, lost in the dream world. Suddenly, a neon glow pulsed over him, snapping him awake. He checked his arm, expecting the earthquake gauntlet acting up. But then a voice echoed through the tent, calling his name. He whipped his head around. The green light wasn't an item, it was her. She dropped the bomb immediately. She needed backup. Who are you? He demanded. She revealed herself as a fragment of the Watcher Ankle, the entity known as the Green Wind. Shutra's gamer brain clicked instantly. Green Wind wasn't just some NPC. She was a top-tier nature spirit, worshipped by the centaurs and satyrs in the deep lore of Night Saga. The only reason the Ankle Plains stayed lush and vibrant was because she was constantly buffing the land. Before he could process, the scenery glitch shifted. He'd been teleported straight to her sanctuary, the hidden realm where the fragment of the creator Watcher Ankle lived. The name Ankle triggered a core memory. From his gaming days, Watcher Ankle was one of the 6 Elder Dragon's literal god-tier beings that players could dream of seeing but never touch in Night Saga. He had just unlocked Enkidu's earthquake, and now he's face-to-face with Watcher Ankle's legacy. The RNG felt rigged. It was too much of a coincidence. But Green Wind cut through his suspicion. Time was running out. A horde of monsters from the north was blitzing toward her home, hungry to steal the plane's life force. If they breach the sanctuary, they devour her spirit and leave a wasteland. She looked him dead in the eye. He was the only tank who could hold the line. Kshatriya hesitated, knowing his level was way too low for this kind of raid boss. She shut that down fast, pointing at the power of Enkidu on his arm. She promised the fragment of ankle would buff his stats to match the threat. But first he had to flash the token to her children to get them on board. Blink and he was back in his room. But the proof was there. His fist was glowing with the radiant energy of the fragment he was clutching. She had promised her children would lend him their strength. Wasting zero time, he sprinted straight to Savage Eyes' quarters. When the chieftain heard the news, he exploded. The idea that Green Wind was in danger sounded insane. Kshatriya countered fast, explaining, "There's a hidden shrine to the northeast, and if the intel was right, the Kashus were about to raid it." "We don't have time to debate," Kshatriya snapped. They needed to mobilize the warband right now. Savage Eyes scoffed, clearing his throat. "You want me to march my army into the dark based on a bedtime story?" He was about to shut it down when the green light caught his eye. The words died in his throat. He recognized the artifact in Kshatriya's hand instantly, the divine relic of the Green Wind. His whole demeanor flipped. "What are your orders?" he asked, deadly serious. By daybreak, the Centaur Legion was locked and loaded spears sharpened and bows strung. Kshatriya mounted up, rode through the ranks. His internal minimap was pinging like crazy, guiding him straight to the hidden objective, the Temple of the Green Wind. Without that system assist, they would have been wandering the wilderness aimlessly. The place was perfectly concealed. But the enemy was already closing in. Kshatriya gritted his teeth, wondering how the hell the Kashus doxed a spirit's secret location. There was a mole or a mechanic he was missing. Savage Eyes scanned the horizon, noting the massive enemy numbers. "That's a heavy mob," the chieftain grunted. "What's the play?" Prince Green Wind's voice echoed in Kshatriya's mind, telling him to sync with Enkel's fragments. He could feel the power surging from the temple. He turned to Savage Eyes. "I'm rushing the objective. You guys draw aggro and keep them off my back." He signaled Karak and Karma to squad up with him. Savage Eyes roared to the army, commanding them to hold the line at all costs. Battle stations. The charge began. Archers rained death from the backline, dropping Kashus by the dozen. The swordsmen smashed into the enemy front, carving a bloody path. While Kshatriya's strike team blitzed toward the temple entrance, Karak shouted over the noise to confirm the mission. "Get the prince inside, no matter what." "Exactly," Kshatriya yelled back. That was all the motivation Karak needed to go full berserker mode. He took point his axe, becoming a blur of steel as he hacked through the Kashu blockade. Karma was right there with him, her daggers flashing in deadly arcs. Kshatriya hyped them up, pushing forward. They were feet away from the entrance, when a massive shadow swooped down. A giant bat creature slammed into them, sending Kshatriya and his mount flying. They crashed hard into the dirt. The beast-like centaur mutant let out a bone-chilling roar and charged for the kill. Kshatriya cursed his lack of awareness. But before the claws could connect, Karak drifted in and parried the blow. A wave of relief washed over Kshatriya. "You alive?" Karak grunted, muscles straining against the monster's weight. He flashed a grin, telling the prince to get up. "Nap time is over, boss." The creature screeched again, launching a frenzy of attacks, but Karak stood like a wall, deflecting every strike. "It's happening again. The struggle is real." The guy is barely holding on, and Kshatriya can't help but throw some shade about him acting tough earlier. But it looks like he's tapped out. Bam! Kshatriya activates the Under the King's Banner skill, flooding Karak with a massive strength buff. Time to flip the script. Karak goes on the offensive, blitzing the creature before it can react. The beast stumbles back, completely rattled. Karak doesn't let up. He chases it down, channels every ounce of power, and slashes deep across its chest. The monster spews black blood everywhere. Going for the kill shot, Karak smashes its head with everything he's got, sending a shockwave of dust into the air. He screams at the prince to go. "Leave this mess to me." Kshatriya knows Karak's got this, so he bolts, sprinting toward the temple like his life depends on it. He bursts through the doors and hears a voice echoing, "Hurry, it's Green Wind." Her gauntlet pulses with light. She tells him Enkidu's artifact is the compass. He feels the energy signature, pulling him deeper into the temple's core. He follows the flow until he hits a dead stop in front of a colossal ancient tree. Suddenly, the vines come alive. It jump scares him for a second, but they gently lower a glowing object. Kshatriya's eyes go wide. No way. It's a dragon heart, the ultimate mana source for every dragon species. A literal dragon heart. It clicks. This is the fragment of Enkidu everyone was talking about. Green Wind manifests and drops some lore. The Enkidu plains have stayed chill for ages, strictly because of the Watcher Enkidu's magic. And this temple, it's the anchor. It was born from Enkidu's fragment, and if this place falls, the piece shatters instantly. She begs him, "Wake up the old magic. Stop the destruction." Meanwhile, outside is a total war zone. Savage Eyes is barking orders, refusing to give an inch. They cannot let the enemy breach the gates. Karak is brawling like a demon, and Karma is right there with him. Inside, Green Wind pleads with the Ninth Prince to save her children. Kshatriya grabs the dragon's heart, and zoom he's warped into a spirit realm. He's disoriented at first because he's staring down a literal dragon. It's the Watcher Enkidu. Her eyes flare, and she gifts him her power. The temple erupts with light, shooting a massive beam straight into the heavens. Even the centaurs stop mid-fight to gawk. Their jaws hit the floor. Karak looks up and thinks, "That's my prince." Massive vines burst from the ground, growing taller and thicker by the second. They're twisting into shape. Boom, giant bipedal wood golems. They lock onto the Cassius and attack with zero hesitation. The Cassius never saw it coming. No time to dodge, no time to run. The wood golems start mowing them down, thinning the herd, until Green Wind senses Enkidu's magic is fully online. She breathes a sigh of relief, thanking the prince. But wait, Shutra is still clutching the dragon's heart. Green Wind steps back, confused. The vibe just shifted. She panics. Why is Enkidu's mana flooding into you? She asks if he's crazy enough to try absorbing it all. Shutra looks different. She screams at him to stop. If he keeps going, his body is going to self-destruct. Ding system notification level up. A cut on his cheek heals instantly. Green Wind watches in horror. The system spams level up alerts, and a dark voice echoes in Shutra's mind. Conquer. Subdue them. Make them kneel. Even the ghost of an elder dragon will bow before him. The dragon heart fuses right into his chest, unleashing a blinding flashbang of light. Finally, the glare fades. Shutra is panting, hands on his knees. The glow dims, and when he looks up, he's got a new title, Knight of Conquest. He unlocked the passive skill, Dragon Body Level 1, and acquired Dragon Blood, plus immunity to all poisons Level 1. And the kicker, he unlocked a new subclass, Dragonborn. He's a being who awakened the dragon gene wielding dragon magic despite being a draconian Asura hybrid. Zephyr's recessive genes let him hotwire that dormant power. Green Wind looks at him stunned. He's got the body and the spirit of a dragon now. She can feel Enkidu's power radiating off him. But she's not mad. This power has been locked away for a millennium, untouched. She bows her head. Successor of Watcher Enkidu. I have one wish. Protect the plains. And protect my children. Shutra flashes a confident grin. You got it. Outside the temple, the wood golems are cleaning house. Most of the Cassius are down, but the vibe changes again. Crack. A massive Cassius cleaves a wooden golem in half and roars like a chainsaw, shaking the centaurs. Shutra spots it from the roof. That's the boss unit. He dives down, landing next to Karak. It's go time. The commander of the Cassius is wrecking the golems, growling at the squad. It knows a real fight just showed up. Shutra throws a punch out of nowhere. The beast counters instantly, but Shutra backpedals, barely dodging the swipe. For a hulking monstrosity, this thing moves scary fast. The creature charges, closing the gap. Shutra plants his feet, winding up for the haymaker. He unleashes the fist of explosion. Thwack! The recoil sends a tremor straight up his arm. Is this guy made of iron? Shutra grits his teeth just as another claw comes swinging. He realizes he underestimated this tank. If the fist of explosion bounces off like a pebble, he needs to level up his game. Time to bust out the new skill. He triggers the Dragonborn exclusive Dragon Blood. The weapon Earthquake starts humming, unlocking a fraction of its true potential. He's betting the house on this one strike. The commander winds up for a kill shot, but Shutra shouts, Karak, you're up. Skill activated King's Knight. Karak materializes right behind the beast's blind spot, and wham, smashes it right in the temple. That just made it matter, but the distraction buys a split second. Shutra rushes in. The beast locks eyes with him, but it's too late. Shutra's aura has completely shifted. He unleashes Earthquake's secret art, pure, unadulterated power. He calls it the Gigantic Piston. Boom! The punch blasts a massive hole straight through the commander's chest. Savage Eyes is floored. Karak just smirks with pride. The giant falls, and that sweet level-up notification hits. System alert. Boss Drake Ogre Mustafa defeated. New title acquired, Drake Ogre Slayer. Nice. He checks his stats. His aura is tanked. If that level up hadn't refilled his bar, he would have face-planted right there. To actually use the weapon's embedded ult, he needs a specific control skill, a skill he definitely doesn't have yet, meaning the Gigantic Piston was just a warm-up. He realizes Earthquake is hiding a technique way more broken than that. Karak heads up, stragglers are fleeing. Savage Eyes is already on it, slicing through the panicked mob. Shutra gives the order, hunt them down. Leaving survivors just means dealing with revenge squads later, no loose ends. The hunt is on zero mercy, zero escapees. By nightfall, the battlefield goes silent. It's over. Back at camp, the centaurs finally chill. Booze flows, and Karak and Karma clink glasses in victory. While everyone's partying, Green Wind floats over to Shutra. Why come to me when the party's popping off? He's got business to handle. He granted her request. Now he's got a few burning questions of his own. She's down to talk, but she drops a condition first. Release me from your control, then we'll chat. Shutra's blank. Control. She breaks it down since he absorbed Enkel's mana, and she's basically made of that magic she's accidentally soulbound to him. Oh, that control. Right, give me a sec, he says. She waits expectantly. A few awkward seconds tick by. They just stare at each other. Nothing happens. Shutra realizes he has zero clue how to undo this. When he asks how she turns ghost white, she stammers, needing to verify she heard that right. Panic sets in. Wait, you seriously don't know how to release me? Nope. Skip that class, he admits. She's annoyed he acted so confident earlier, but he tells her to chill out. He puts his thinking cap on. Okay, what's your status right now? Her answer is simple. I am yours. Meaning absolute obedience. Shutra waves that off. No, I mean, do you feel weird? Any glitches? Pain? She shakes her head. Abilities are fine, stats are normal. But she adds, if I leave, the ankle planes die. She's the living battery keeping the life magic in this zone running. Shutra shrugs. Okay, easy fix. You just stay here in the plains. Don't follow me. She looks at him like he's crazy. He doubles down, saying she doesn't need to tag along. Suddenly her face drops. She looks crushed. To a spirit bound to a master, that sounds like abandonment. Shutra backpedals fast. Whoa, not like that. Wait, do you want to come with me? She snaps at him. You're the master. Of course I go where you go. Shutra's internally screaming. He didn't expect her to be this intense about it. He really just stumbled into a spirit contract by accident. Amazing. He pivots back to the symbol of the plains problem. Since she's the anchor for the grand spell, he asks, can you make a proxy? Something to stand in for her. She nods. It'll take time, but yeah, it's doable. Shutra gives the green light. Build a replacement, then join me. She pouts, warning him that splitting her power means she'll be pretty useless in a fight for a while, because she has to leave the bulk of her mana here to keep the plains alive. Not a problem, Shutra says coolly. Inside, he's doing a victory dance. Total jackpot. A contract with a high-tier nature spirit. That's S-tier loot. Her eyes light up at his acceptance. Deal sealed. Now for the real talk. He drops the bomb. How and when did Ankle die? The question hits her like a truck. She hesitates. She's just a fragment, a spirit rebooted from nature. She doesn't have the full hard drive of Enkel's memories. But one file is clear. 1,000 years ago, Enkel was murdered. No ID on the killer, but she's 100% sure it wasn't another Elder Dragon. Shutra's mind races. Who has the DPS to take down a god-tier Elder Dragon? Before he can spiral, Green Wind interrupts. Hey, you can drop the formalities now. She was getting weirded out by the formality. It felt stiff now that he was officially the heir to Ankiel's legacy. He cut to the chase and asked the big question, could his body handle the raw energy of another Elder Dragon? Typically, that's a suicide mission. But for him, she hesitated. If anyone could break the rules, it was him. He's already dual-wielding the essence of Ankiel the Watcher and the great Enkidu, the beast who stood against her. If he can juggle those two clashing titans without exploding, stacking another dragon's power isn't just a fantasy, it's a possibility. Shutra was impressed. He literally called it main character plot armor. But he had one final query regarding the dormant power he felt inside. She shrugged. She was just a glitched memory fragment, lacking the full database of Ankiel's mind, so her intel was corrupted. Then out of nowhere, she went supernova with a blinding flash. Shutra shielded his eyes against the glare. What? Suddenly, the vibe shifted. Something ancient hijacked Green Wind's voice. The entity proclaimed him the Knight of Conquest, a soul carved from the destiny of kings. The command was absolute: he shall conquer and dominate all of creation. That is the king's authority, and it belongs to him. A direct message from Ankiel himself. Cut to sunrise at the temple. Shutra was passed out on the ground until the morning light slapped him awake. He sat up groggy. What just happened? The last thing he recalled was the conversation with Green Wind. She materialized to check his vitals. She wasn't sure why, but it seemed Uncle's core consciousness had surged through her last night, causing a system overload that knocked him out cold. The memory of that voice flooded back. Conquer and rule all creation. The power of the king. It clicked. Ankiel already knew exactly what kind of monster Shutra was becoming. Green Wind dropped the pledge he was her master for eternity. Formalities done, she dropped some alpha intel. A holographic screen popped up, pinging a location at the frozen edge of the Ankiel Plains. There lies a relic of the Watcher. Just like his earthquake gauntlet, this was an artifact juiced up with Elder Dragon energy. The Shield of Life. Rewind 1,000 years, Watcher Ankiel gifted this Aegis to the wildest, most righteous centaur warrior in history. This unit of a warrior led his squad against the northern hordes, stacking up victories, without taking a single scratch. But he wasn't immortal. His one fatal flaw. He didn't sleep with his gear. One night, a rival sent a honeypot assassin to warm his bed. Distracted and defenseless, the legend was shanked in his sleep. The Shield of Life was soul-bound by Uncle himself. That meant nobody but the true owner could even lift the thing. His followers buried the epic loot alongside him in a northern tomb. Centuries rolled by, and history turned into myth. The centaurs rebranded the artifact after the warrior himself, White Suri. Shutra's internal gamer screamed. He knew that name. It was a lore-only item from the Night Saga backstory. Mythical gear that not even the sweatiest veteran players could locate. The server's best shield. And it's an Elder Dragon artifact. Green Wind asked if he recognized it. He was hyped. Where's the dungeon? Drop the coordinates. She pointed north, way north. She could track it, but first she needed to craft a body double to guard the temple. As soon as they wrap this up, she starts the process. He checked the timer. How long we talkin'? She calculated that thanks to the mana boost from the protection spell, she'd only need 2 days. 2 days, he could work with that. It was a trek, but totally doable. He clenched his fist. He was going there, no excuses. With White Suri in his inventory, the difficulty setting of his life would drop significantly. Shutra stepped out to clear his head. He crafted a cover story traveling north to hunt down the remaining Cashus, but there was a glitch in the plan. That massive protection spell likely lit up the Demon King's radar like a Christmas tree. They would definitely dispatch a specialist to inspect the ruins. If the intel leaked today, the inspector would spawn in about a week. The play was to ghost the area before the feds arrived. But just as he finalized the strategy, Savage Eyes dropped a bomb. The Demon King's envoy was already here. Shutra froze. "You're kidding." They ducked into the tent. Felicia caught his panic instantly and teased him. "Why the long face? You look like you've seen a phantom." Shutra stammered. "Why are you here?" She shut him down, manners first, business later. Shutra was reeling, totally thrown off his game. Then a new challenger approached. The woman bowed with elegant precision. Daphne, daughter of Echo, the fifth concubine. Shutra's eyes widened. A dryad-born druid. This was it. He had to recruit one of the 3 half-siblings to his party, no matter the cost. Felicia dropped the intel that she's a top-tier druid, basically a cheat code for this mission since the Anger Plane's guardian spirit was in the mix. She hit him with the pleasure working with you line. Honestly, he never expected to run into her. Out here, he tried to keep his cool and look capable, but then it clicked. Wasn't Felicia supposed to be trekking to the Gishka Mountains to study the anvil that gives birth to thunder? That was the plan. But Shutra speedran his mission. She leaned in, whispering that his crazy clear time is turning heads. She spilled that the Kashu subjugation wasn't exactly god-tier difficulty, but wrapping it up in 2 days. That changes the whole narrative. Usually that's a 2-week grind. And with all the irregular events popping off, everyone is losing their minds. If any other royal showed up, they would have been interrogating him or spying from the shadows by now. He asked if she came just to play defense for him. She blushed, caught off guard, and admitted it wasn't just that. She was genuinely geeking out over the temple's magic and the Kashu's glitchy behavior. Shutra smirked. Beneath that Ice Queen exterior, she's actually got a soft spot. He thanked her for having his back. She pivoted, asking for the next move. He told her, he's scouting the northern region to hunt down stragglers and track the legendary White Suri. Savage Eyes stepped up to join the squad, chieftain duty non-negotiable. It wouldn't make sense for him to sit on the sidelines. Shutra nodded logical enough, but then Felicia threw a curveball. She's tagging along too. Her logic, studying a living, breathing Kashu beats dissecting a corpse any day. He agreed on the surface, but internally, he was stressing. The Remnant Hunt was supposed to be a solo cover story. Carrick grumbled. He had a gut feeling this was about to get messy. A few days later, contact. Total chaos. Carrick and the centaurs clashed with the beastmen. In the heat of battle, Shutra spotted something that proved his instincts dead right. While the centaurs engaged, Kashus tried to flank Shutra from the blind spot. Where on earth did they spawn from? He was getting irritated. He thought they cleared this level last time. Suddenly, ear-piercing shrieks from above. Geists, talk about a headache. But they weren't the only ones with aerial superiority. He triggered Blessing of the Wind level 1, making his body feather light, blasting forward at gale speeds. Green Wind gasped, asking how he hijacked her magic. He didn't answer, just blitzed the Geists. The monsters never saw it coming. He unleashed Fist of Explosion, blasting them out of the sky. He told them to quit blocking his view and just vanish. Watching him dominate, Green Wind spiraled into an existential crisis about her own usefulness. Cut to Daphne, trapped in a circle of Kashu bodies, paralyzed by terror. A beast lunged for the kill. Luckily, a massive hand grabbed her, and a blade severed the monster's head. Carrick to the rescue. Nearby, Felicia was dancing through her own duel. The ambush actually worked in her favor. She needed test subjects anyway. By dusk, the fighting stopped. Bodies littered the plains. Felicia told Shutra to focus on the faint violet haze clinging to the corpses. Now that she pointed it out, he could barely make it out. Her theory. It's a nasty type of curse magic. It buffs their strength, but the cost is their life force. It burns them out. Plus, their emotions look deleted. Like they were severed entirely. Definitely a curse, and someone is pulling the strings. Shutra frowned. They already fragged the commander, who controlled them before. So who's the new boss? Karak signaled him to hold up, and pointed out Daphne. She had been stiff as a board the whole fight. He thinks this was her first real taste of blood. Seeing her like that, Shutra realized this wasn't the veteran Daphne he remembered. She was a rookie, trembling, as she whispered that she could feel the spirits screaming in fear. There was a dark, heavy power, pulsing stronger the further north they went. Green Wind, floating as a tiny firefly, warned Shutra of a sinister vibe, radiating from the north. She suspects a powerful entity is acting as a beacon for that purple aura. Felicia suggested they'd find answers at the northernmost point. Savage Eyes proposed checking the view from the northern border observation tower. Shutra's original plan was just to grab the White Suri, but the plot had officially thickened. He agreed to the detour. Night had fallen by the time they arrived. Felicia pointed into the darkness, aiming at the source of the bad vibes. They peered out and saw a massive horde. Even at a glance, that's easily 200 or 300 units. The only thing capable of rallying an army that size is an undead, and these weren't grunts, she sensed. High-ranking energy, at least Lich tier. Daphne's legs gave out, and she collapsed to the ground. Karak asked what was wrong. She stammered that she's fine. Felicia shuddered. This wasn't just a creepy vibe, it was personal. And Daphne, being half-spirit, meant she was taking that chilling aura straight to the heart. If they were dealing with a high-tier undead boss, their squad was toast. Felicia made the executive call. We need to bail. Now. But then her eyes went wide. Panic mode. Something was incoming. Who is it? Shutra started to ask, but chaos cut him off. Ping, the system UI screamed surrounded. Karak pointed a shaky finger at the sky, screaming as a massive fireball hurtled straight for their faces. It's a trap, Shutra cursed, realizing they'd been played. Move, get out. The tower groaned, then crumbled into dust. Pure chaos. Screams tore through the air as they sprinted for their lives. Above the wreckage, dark silhouettes with nasty auras took to the skies. Felicia didn't hesitate. She snapped her fingers, wind control active. A gust swept everyone up, launching them clear of the inferno just as the tower blew. They hit the dirt hard but safe. She immediately scanned Shutra for injuries while Sylvan gasped, "Thank you, Sixth Princess. That was close." Her magic was the only reason they were still breathing, but she waved off the praise. "Save the gratitude," she snapped. One look at the horizon told her why. It was a sea of enemies. Endless. "We have to run," Felicia urged, but Shutra's gut sank. He could see the circle closing in. They were totally boxed in. "Buy me a few seconds," she pleaded. "I'll find an opening." Seeing her determination, Shutra felt a spark of respect. She wasn't giving up. "You got it," he grinned. "I'll hold the line." He triggered. Under the king's banner, and the centaurs roared as raw power flooded their veins. Sylvan looked at his glowing hands. "What is this magic?" Green Wind hovered close, whispering urgently to her master. "Are you seriously going to fight?" she asked. "Damn right," he replied. Their only play now was to bet everything on Felicia. Shutra clenched his fist, knuckles white. Battle stations. The mood shifted instantly, no fear, just steel. He refused to give an inch. Beside him, Karek, Sylvan, and Karma dove headfirst into the slaughter. Shutra was a machine blasting through ranks with fist of explosion. Boom bones went flying, but the skulls just floated there, mocking him. He was panting already. And the worst part, the bones clicked back together. Click, clack. Good as new. This is endless, Shutra realized. They had to decapitate the snake. Find the summoner, end the spell. It was their only shot. Flash blinding lights tore through the sky, hammering the centaur lines with devastating precision. Karek grabbed a zombie, using it as a meat shield. What the hell was that? Then the pile of corpses shifted. Something groaned deep and low. A massive skeleton hauled itself up from the dead. Full plate armor, a rusted crown. Bingo. Shutra locked eyes with the boss. Sylvan went for the backstab, blocked. The boss swatted him like a fly. Karek swung next, his weapon clanging uselessly against the heavy armor. The impact just sent shockwaves up Karak's arms. The skeleton barely moved, then shoved him back. Crunch. Karak hit the dirt hard. My turn, Shutra leaped into the fray. He was actually glad the big guy stepped up. Time to wrap this up. He unleashed a point-blank fist of explosion. Nothing. Not even a scratch. The boss casually tossed him aside like a rag doll. Shutra stared, stunned. This guy was a tank. They were completely out of their league. Step back, Felicia's voice cut in. You've done enough. Even the Skeleton King tilted its head, curious about the new challenger. Shutra was confused, but Felicia stepped in front of him. I'll handle this, she smirked, glaring at the monster. Come, get some bonehead. Magic crackled in her palm. Boom, a direct hit. The Skeleton King actually groaned in pain. Now it looked pissed. It swung a massive fist, but Felicia was already gone. She danced away, riding the air currents with wind control. It tried to crush her, but zip, she triggered, blink vanished into thin air, and reappeared right behind the oversized skull. Pew, pew, 2 magical beams drilled into its back. The boss staggered. Shutra watched, jaw dropped. She was on another level. He never thought she'd be soloing a boss that just wiped the floor with the rest of them. Suddenly, a soft light bloomed behind Shutra. Daphne, are you okay? She whispered, weaving her own wind control to buff the centaur army. Sylvan gasped as energy returned. Karek shook off the dizziness, standing tall. Shutra grinned. The Dryad's domain buff. Finally, Daphne was pulling her weight and the tide was about to turn. A system alert pops up. Boost level 1 is live. Suddenly, raw energy starts spiraling around him like a hurricane. Boom, pure power explodes outwards. He's totally confused. Why is he unlocking skills mid-fight? The screen flashes Spirit Bloom acquired. Level 1. It allows a spirit to inhabit the user's body, jacking up every single stat. Adrenaline courses through his veins. Now, according to Night Saga rules, a vessel can usually handle only one spirit at a time. But screw the rules. He's currently hosting the Spirit of Life and the Spirit of Wind at the exact same time. Just as he figured perks of having that broken protagonist build, Felicia unleashes hell on the undead leader, but her stamina is tanking fast. She takes a hit, panics, and snaps Blink to teleport away. She's sick of this guy. Just die already. But the undead leader reads her like a book, predicting exactly where she'll materialize in the backline. He catches her completely flat-footed. Suddenly, Karek feels a surge rushing in to aggro the boss. It works, the monster pivots attention. Out of nowhere, Shutra slides in next to Felicia. Nice work, I'll take it from here. She's stunned to see him. He tells her to chill while he handles the finale, unleashing a devastating fist of explosion. The impact slams the undead leader into the dirt. Karek grins, thinking this is the good game moment. Shutra jokes that he did all the heavy lifting. Karak decides to play along and goes for the kill shot, aiming to decapitate the beast. But the second he gets close, an ominous purple glow lights up the corpse. It's a trap. Karek gets swallowed by the energy. Shutra screams his name as that cursed light starts raining down on him too. A single drop hits his cheek. Instantly, a purple corruption spreads across his skin. The pain is blinding, dropping him to his knees. Felicia watches in horror. The undead leader rises and starts stalking toward a helpless Shutra. Meanwhile, deep in the woods, green wind is drifting around until something catches her eye. It's a grave. The tomb of the warrior she's been hunting for. Back at the fight, the undead leader raises its weapon to end Shutra. It's locked onto him. Felicia takes it personally. How dare this thing ignore her? She fires a triple blast to grab its attention. The boss turns, vanishes into thin air, and instantly teleports behind her. It copied her blink. A massive blade comes swinging down. She barely manages to throw up a defensive barrier. She's gritting her teeth at this persistent monster, but the force is too much. It smashes through, pinning her to the ground. The beast lets out a victory roar. Undead hordes swarm Felicia, while Shutra lies there, blacked out. Greenwind's voice cuts through the darkness. Wake up, no time for naps. You need to awaken Ankle's power now. He's groggy. What power? How do I even do that? Greenwind starts glowing intensely. Look inside, you already know the answer. His eyes snap open. He whispers 2 words, dragon blood. A massive beam of green light tears across the sky. Felicia, fighting for her life, freezes as the horizon lights up. It moves at light speed, incinerating the mob around her in a single strike. She looks over at Shutra, face down in the dirt. The energy is pooling around him. He lifts his head, and his jaw drops. Standing right there is the legendary White Suri. How is this even possible? He gasps. Greenwind explains she spent the battle hunting for the warrior's grave. Leaving him vulnerable was a gamble, but it paid off. She found the beast and forced it to recognize a new master. Shutra smirks, impressed. She cuts him off sharp. Save the applause. Survive first. Right. Boss fight time. The undead leader charges, landing a hit that launches Shutra into the sky. That hit should have killed him instantly. Instead, Shutra flips mid-air and stabilizes like a pro. He spots the enemy charging a beam attack from its mouth. The speed is insane, he barely has time to react before it fires. Felicia screams. Smoke swallows the impact zone, but then a blinding light erupts from Shutra's shield. He can feel the surge. Green wind confirms it. Ankle's fragment has officially evolved him into a dragonborn. But that's not all. A secondary power source just came online. Can you feel that? She asks. It's 5,000 years of Ankle's magic stored in the White Suri. His gauntlet starts vibrating in resonance. Oh yeah, he grins. This feels absolutely insane. Even the undead leader senses the shift in power. Shutra taunts the skeleton. Keep acting tough, bonehead. I'm about to turn you into dust. He grips the White Suri shield and hurls it. It tears through the undead mob, bouncing between them like a deadly pinball. Felicia watches in awe. The undead leader roars in frustration as the shield curves back, locking onto its final target. White Suri took the bait, lunging forward before snapping its massive wings open and rocketing into the sky. The undead leader was completely fixated on the aerial distraction. Perfect opening. Shutra blindsided the beast, detonating a fist of explosion right into its spine. The monster roared, shaking the very ground. In retaliation, it summoned a hellstorm of fireballs. Shutra danced through the inferno, dodging the flames before hurling his shield like a ballistic missile. Crack. The shield smashed the creature's jaw. White Suri swooped back in, unleashing a flurry of rapid-fire strikes on the staggered boss. Fury exploded from the monster, but Shutra didn't flinch. He charged in, channeling every ounce of mana into his arm, gigantic fist. The blow connected with the stomach, folding the undead leader like a lawn chair. Time to wrap this up. Shutra snapped his finger downward. Gravity answered, slamming the airborne shield straight onto the boss's skull. Splat. The head disintegrated into pure purple haze. Instantly, the surrounding undead froze, leaking that same violet energy. Boom. A chain reaction of explosions wiped the mob. A holographic notification popped up. Boss defeated skeleton King Valkaroba. The sweet sound of a level up chimed. Shutra scoffed at the dust piles. All that arrogance for such a mediocre fight. Please. Achievement unlocked, Kingslayer level 1. Felicia sprinted over, breathless with good news. The curse was officially cleansed. Let the trash mobs take each other out, she urged. Shutra didn't need telling twice, they bailed, while the chaos unfolded. Cut to camp a few hours later. While Shutra polished his shield, Felicia finally addressed the elephant in the room, or rather, the White Suri. Savage Eyes was shook. He thought the legends were just campfire stories, not reality. Then Daphne piped up with some sensory intel. The energy radiating off it is insane, she whispered. And honestly, I think it's still holding back. It clicked for Shutra. The White Suri was self-nerfing to match his current stats, just like with the earthquake skill. The potential for growth was hype. Felicia gave him a conspiratorial wink. This mount was his loot, and she'd keep it off the official report to the Demon King. Just treat it right, she said softly. Shutra gave her a genuine thanks before Savage Eyes stepped into the frame. The warrior bowed. From this moment forward, the tribe recognized Shutra as the true successor to the great warrior. The White Suri's legacy was his. Say the word and we ride with you, Savage Eyes vowed. Shutra smirked. I'm counting on it. It felt like a perfect season finale, but reality hit the grind, never stops. He still had farming to do. Raiding the great warrior's tomb was a blast, and the loot was god tier. He turned to leave, thinking the quest was complete. Not so fast, Green Wind interjected, clearly salty. He had forgotten the most crucial step, praising her. She was fuming that he ignored her contribution. Karak nearly jumped out of his skin thinking he saw a specter, while Shutra hastily apologized. He gave her the requested head pats. Good job, he soothed. We literally couldn't have won without you. MVP status. Blushing hard, she muttered, I'll let it slide this time. But keep the compliments coming. She was basically a puppy, in spirit form. He ruffled her hair vigorously, giving her the who's a good girl treatment. And that was a wrap on the Northern Region arc. But of course there was a catch. A nagging feeling clawed at Shutra. Was Valkaroba really the source of the purple death energy? It felt too easy. If he was the mastermind, why attack the North? And how did a Skeleton King stumble upon the temple's secrets? The math wasn't mathing. Answers were scarce, but Shutra vowed to uncover the true origin of that corrupted energy. Eventually, back from the boundary line, life hit fast forward. Weeks blurred into a montage of busy prep work. Savage Eyes was mobilizing his tribe's elite for a northern expedition. It was weirdly late in the game, but finally, the operation to purge the Cassius herd was a go. Shutra geared up and tagged along with Savage Eyes' crew. It took a solid 2-week grind to clear the Cassius infestation from the teleportation site. Felicia side-eyed him. Are you getting buffed again? Shutra shrugged, grinning. What can I say? I'm hitting a growth spurt. Changing the subject, he asked about the temple investigation. Felicia's eyes lit up. She hadn't just checked it. She found a massive bombshell. The magic signature, she geeked out. It belongs to Einkel. She was practically vibrating with excitement. And we're not talking about some random scrub. This was Einkel, one of the 6 elder dragons. The Watcher. Shutra plastered on a fake smile. Wow, that's crazy. Felicia narrowed her eyes. Wait, why do you look like you already knew that? News to me, he lied through his teeth. Green wind floated by whispering, you are a terrible actor. He pretended not to hear her. We should probably report to the Demon King's castle, now, he deflected. Upon arrival, Felicia got the red carpet treatment. Everyone swarmed her for gossip. Meanwhile, Shutra stood there completely invisible. Standard procedure. Some things never change, huh? Karak grunted. Shutra nodded. Suddenly, green wind clutched her chest. My heart, it is racing. Are we sure about leaving the Enger Plains behind? She asked nervously. Shutra tuned her out, already focused on his next move. The vibe shifted instantly. The moment those figures approached, the air grew heavy, prompting Karak to ask if Shutra had beef with them. It wasn't just paranoia. They were getting death stares. Shutra clocked them immediately, succubi. And not just any randoms. Probably Anastasia's crew. These weren't low-level mobs. They belonged to a major faction led by none other than the 4th Princess Anastasia Necreon. Back during the day of the massacre, her faction held the most terrifying power base. Even heavy hitters like Felicia and her twin Sylvan were under her banner. Shutra kept it cool, noting that if they were eyeing him down, it meant the chaos at Engel Plains had already hit Anastasia's radar. He warned Karak to stay sharp, because from here on out all eyes were on them. Later at the Office of Public Merits, Isabella dropped some insane news. His merit rank just hit level 10. His monthly stipend skyrocketed from 500 to 900 gold, and his access privileges within the Demon King Castle just got a massive upgrade. Best of all, he unlocked access to the treasure vault. Shutra was grinning ear to ear. Time to blow some cash. He marched straight to the armory. Since he was now a level 10 VIP, he was granted entry to the first treasure vault. Usually, you need merit points for this gear, but his rank allowed him to pay straight gold. Igor, the armory supervisor, gave them the red carpet treatment, ushering them inside and telling them to go wild. Shutra turned to Karak and told him to pick whatever he wanted. The orc looked shook. Shutra explained the logic. Better gear on Karak meant a better meat shield for him. That was all the motivation Karak needed. Shutra, meanwhile, knew exactly what to look for. He snagged a top-tier piece armor with resistance to every elemental attack. Crucially, it was ultra-lightweight, perfect for flowing with the Beast God Fistard. With his base layer sorted, he needed one final piece to complete the build. He hit up Cater, the head blacksmith, asking for custom greaves. Since his fighting style relied on rapid footwork, standard heavy greaves were trash. He asked Cater for a lead time. The design was basic, so the smith promised it in 2 days. But when Shutra asked for material recommendations, Cater suggested crafting them from literal dragon leather and scales. Shutra thought the guy was trolling him, because there was no way he could source S-rank materials like that. But Cater revealed a shipment had just arrived with Shutra's name on it, and he planned to use that stash. Shutra was totally lost. He demanded an explanation, and Cater realized the prince was out of the loop, dropping the bomb that Lord Ishgard himself had ordered the dragon parts delivered personally to Shutra. Shutra froze. He knew that name. Ishgard was the Sword Lord, the deadliest swordsman in the demon realm, an elder of the Asura race, the apex predators. This was the legendary warrior, who trained Demon King Mitra in the art of the blade. Outside, Karak asked the million-dollar question, why is a living legend helping a nobody? Shutra had 0 answers. Karak was stunned by his silence, but noted that having the Sword Lord in their corner was a massive safety net. Shutra agreed it was a sweet perk, but the logic didn't track. In the original Night Saga game, the Asura clan stayed neutral. Was this a ripple effect? caused by the Demon King's sudden interest in him. Suddenly, a runner sprinted toward them, looking frantic. Shutra braced for bad news. The messenger, gasping for air, dropped the update: a mandatory audience ceremony was scheduled for tomorrow morning. Shutra was blindsided, another one so soon. The messenger explained that Shutra's performance at Engle Plains was viral-worthy, and the king wanted to commend the top 3 contributors personally. Hearing there were 3 honorees, Shutra asked who was joining him and Felicia. The answer sent a chill down his spine. Second Prince Zephyr. Zephyr Ragnarok was back. In the game's lore, this guy was the absolute strongest entity in the demon race, the destined successor to the throne. Karak watched Shutra's face twist into pure terror. Zephyr wasn't just a rival, he was the monster who would slaughter everyone, Shutra included. The mere thought of seeing him made Shutra look like he was going to be sick. The next morning in the waiting room, Karak checked on his boss. Shutra had been a wreck since the news dropped. He let out a shaky sigh, hands trembling. He knew this meeting was inevitable, but the reality was hitting harder than he expected. Karak tried to distract him by mentioning the arrival of the other prince. An attendant cut in, announcing that the second prince had VIP clearance to bypass the waiting room entirely. Felicia swept in, confirming that Zephyr played by his own rules, but she locked eyes with Shutra, reminding him that his feats were nothing to sneeze at either. She looked lethal in a sparkling black halter dress. Shutra nodded, grounding himself. She told him to lock it in, they just needed to go out there and own the stage. The ceremony kicked off. Demon King Mitra loomed on his throne as Felicia and Shutra made their entrance, their names echoing through the hall. Shutra's pulse was already redlining. If he cracked now, he wouldn't stand a chance against the hellstorm waiting on the other side. He marched toward the obsidian throne. High above, on the second level, a silent figure loomed on the balcony, her gaze locked on him like a sniper. She stared right through our MC with dead eyes. Shutra dropped to one knee before the Demon King, crushing his fear down into the pit of his stomach. This was the boss fight he couldn't skip. Suddenly, the herald's voice boomed across the hall, announcing the next arrival. Enter the second prince, Zephyr Ragnaros. He strode in, radiating pure intensity. Shutra locked eyes with him. Zephyr looked like stone-cold murder. There he was, the literal main character of the Night Saga Demon Realm arc. Then Isabella took the floor, ready to drop the achievement receipts. She kicked things off with Zephyr exactly as Shutra predicted. Zephyr's stats were absolutely broken. The guy's highlight reel alone was enough reason to hold this entire ceremony. Next up, Shutra and Felicia. The room went dead silent when the Northern Border incident came up. All eyes were glued to them. But the real drama hadn't even started yet. Demon King Mitra's voice thundered, calling out Shutra. It was quest time. Heads turned. The other royals were shook. This kind of direct order was unheard of, and Shutra was left reeling. The king himself just dropped a personalized quest in the middle of the ceremony. The objective: infiltrate the Thunderdoom Fortress. Deep in the Dwarven Kingdom, miners had cracked open a forgotten tunnel leading straight to that cursed stronghold. His orders were clear: secure the breach and map out the belly of the beast. Departure in 7 days. A chill ran down his spine. He knew this map. Back when he grinded Night Saga, it was a legendary Dwarven fortress. But here's the kicker: the 27th Exploration Unit already tried to clear it. General Kashubal led the charge. Spoiler alert, he died and the mission failed miserably. The autopsy report: the whole squad was wiped out by toxic gas. Shutra needed a hazmat-level plan to survive. He let out a heavy sigh, trying to figure out why he was being set up. Kashubal was a draconian, basically a tank, and he got folded. Why send Shutra into a meat grinder that killed a general? Why not send Zephyr? The guy literally has dragon blood. Felicia sensed the vibes were off immediately. Did you tick off Dad or something? She whispered. Shutra looked blank, so she spelled it out. Usually Zephyr handles the heavy lifting. Karak chimed in, realizing that if a general got wrecked, this was a suicide run. Felicia was convinced this was way above Shutra's pay grade. You realize this is insanity, right? Before he could even respond, she made the call. I'm coming with you. We are doing this as a duo. She spun it like she was doing him a favor despite her packed schedule. Karak, being the buzzkill, tried to interrupt, but the prince didn't ask, Felicia snapped. Zip it. Orc Shutra nodded, agreeing to the team up. Thanks, I owe you one. Suddenly, a new player entered the chat, volunteering to join the party. Is there room for one more? Ninth Prince Felicia's eyes widened. It was Kadarov. Shutra shut him down instantly. Sorry, roster is full. Kadarov took the hint and dipped. Once he was gone, Felicia turned on Shutra. Are you crazy? Why did you bench him? He is a male siren, with confidence to spare. We could use that firepower. Shutra knew she had a point. Kadarov was an S-tier magic user. Meanwhile, the guy used Blink to teleport straight to his true boss. Shutra already knew the lore. Kadarov was a secret simp for Anastasia, a total fanatic. His kit was built for spying and infiltration. He reported back to Anastasia. The fact that she sent him meant one thing. They were watching Shutra closely. Anastasia realized the Ninth Prince was playing 4D chess way more cautious than she thought. Back at base, the team huddled up. So, what is the intel on Thunderdoom Fortress? Shutra leaned back. All I know is that some hardcore dwarves used to fight dragons there. Karak scratched his head, looking confused. I thought dwarves were just treasure hoarders for Enkidu, Felicia sighed. There is not just one dwarf faction genius. The High Kingdom built that fortress to throw hands with dragons. They fought to protect their loot and their lives. They actually clapped a few dragons too. But keep in mind, a regular dragon and an elder dragon are in completely different weight classes. Carrick grilled her. So could you solo a dragon? Felicia smirked. With enough prep time and mana? So that is a no, Carrick grunted. Felicia bristled. Excuse me, dragons aren't just high-level mobs you can farm. Look at the history books. Even the Dwarf High Kingdom got wiped off the map by them. Carrick chuckled. You are like a walking encyclopedia. Felicia tossed her hair back, oozing confidence. It made total sense she was obsessing over it, considering the Thunderdoom Fortress was basically the holy grail of dwarf lore. We're talking legendary relic duties here. If they excavated this right, they were looking at a lottery win. You could practically see the dollar signs in her eyes. Carrick watched her virtually drool over the potential payout. Meanwhile, Shutra was deep in his own headspace, cross-referencing his game knowledge from the Night Saga. He knew the Thunderdoom Fortress was a notorious honeypot dungeon famous because ancient battles with dragons had wrecked the place, leaving parts of the fortress in ruins. But inside, pristine, high-tier loot and treasures were just waiting to be claimed. But Shutra wasn't there for gold. He was hunting a specific item he desperately needed, a weapon designed for one thing, slaughtering dragons. It was a specialized anti-dragon armament absolutely fatal to anything with draconic lineage, the legendary Dragon Slayer sword. To stand a chance against Zephyr, who has dragon blood running through his veins, Shutra had to secure that blade. By the next day, the squad was geared up and ready to roll. Shutra equipped his A-rank dragon scale greaves. The stats were insane. Fire resistance level 3, fire absorption level 3+, plus 5 strength, a % boost to kick technique damage, and plus 10% agility. It even came with the fire enhancement skill. He did a final gear check with the team. The lineup included Felicia Carrack, Karma Daphne, and their dark elf navigator. Everyone masked up to hide their identities. Mission start. They breached the cave entrance, following the elf as she tracked their route on the map. Carrack noticed the visibility dropping. The fog was getting dense. Felicia corrected him immediately. That wasn't fog. It was toxic gas leaking from the mines, and it was way nastier than she predicted. Since there was no timer on the mission, she called for a slow, tactical advance. Shutra agreed, better safe than sorry. But then Carrack spotted something off. The gas was shifting colors. It was supposed to be yellow. Before Shutra could even ask, the big guy started groaning. In a split second, both Carrack and Karma hit the floor. Shutra demanded a sit rep. Felicia panicked and flared her magic, realizing the chemical composition of the gas had suddenly mutated. She blasted wind magic to clear the area, but it backfired. Her wind slammed into something unseen, triggering a violent explosion, sending a shockwave of concentrated toxin right at them. Shutra felt his strength drain instantly. He shouted for Felicia, but the gas was relentless. The whole team went down. That's when the ambush sprung. Monsters emerged from the shadows, growling as they stalked toward the unconscious bodies. Suddenly a voice cut through the darkness, admitting guilt. It was Shutra. He wasn't out cold. He was just playing dead. He realized these were the same assassins who took out General Kashabal. While the monsters were locked onto him, they failed to notice the white Suri flanking them. It tore through their ranks from behind, slicing their torsos cleanly in half. Green Wind chimed in sarcastically, noting that his fainting act was Oscar-worthy. Shutra told her to zip it. The white Suri was on a rampage, bisecting monsters left and right. One creature shrieked, seeing death approach, but it couldn't outrun the blade. Job done, the white Suri returned to Shutra's side. Total team wipe for the bad guys. Those scumbags had used some seriously high-level poison. Shutra had barely scraped by. Lucky for him, his protagonist's physique level 2 granted him level 1 immunity to all poisons. But the chaos wasn't over. A massive crack splintered the ceiling. Suddenly, the tunnel collapsed right behind Shutra. What the hell was that? These enemies had an endless supply of dirty tricks. He ordered Green Wind to shield the rest of the party. She obeyed instantly. Shutra didn't know the full situation, but priority 1 was getting his team out of this death trap. He activated his Dragon Blood ability to boost his strength, scooping up both the elf and Felicia, and sprinted forward. He spotted the target location, the entrance to the Thunderdoom Fortress. Green Wind was fighting hard to keep everyone safe. Using the white Suri for cover, he doubled back. She yelled at him to hustle because the structural integrity was failing fast. Next, load Daphne and Karma. He told Karak to hang tight, he was coming back for him. Shutra moved at Godspeed. The ground literally crumbled beneath his boots with every step. He reached the safe room and dumped Daphne and Karma, next to Felicia and the elf. He was already strategizing the rescue for Carrack when a thunderous crash made his blood run cold. The tunnel had caved in. The path was blocked by tons of rubble. He screamed Carrack's name. Green Wind told him to get a grip. Panic started to set in. Karak was trapped on the other side. Then she reminded him of that one spell from the Angel Plains. It clicked. He cast it immediately, summoning the King's Knight. A spatial rift tore open above him, and Carrack's head popped through the portal, followed by his massive body. He face-planted onto the floor. Shutra rushed over, heart pounding. Miracle of miracles, the big guy wasn't critically hurt. Shutra let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. But this whole operation was foobar. And those monsters, he was baffled. He had played the entire Night Saga and never seen creatures like that before. Felicia started hacking up a lung. Shutra sighed, snapping back to crisis mode. First priority, detox the squad before the poison became permanent. But the universe wasn't done with them. More of those weird creatures materialized. Shutra cursed under his breath. The swarm launched an attack. He unleashed a fist of explosion, blasting the lead monster backward. Shutra was officially pissed off. He was busy enough without this extra headache. In the distance, the monsters roared a guttural sound that shook the air. He glared daggers at them, snapping, "Shut your traps," before launching a blitz attack. No time to play games. As they rushed him, he cocked his arm back, knuckles cracking. Bam! He unleashed the fist of explosion, right in their ugly mugs. White Suri was a blur of motion beside him, claws flashing. It carved through the beasts like butter. Anything within striking distance dropped dead instantly. Shutra went full berserker mode. Once the dust settled, he switched gears to medic, purging the toxins from the group. Felicia blinked her eyes open. "You good?" he asked. She looked around at the massacre, monster corpses piled high, and stammered. What just went down?" "Don't sweat it," he shrugged, cool as ice. "Just a little warm-up." With the detox finished, they were back in business. Time for the main event, a full-scale raid on the fortress. Target locked the Thunderdoom Fortress control room. A fork in the road stood between them and the objective. Left path, long, boring, safe. Right path, a suicide shortcut packed with enough traps to kill an army. Felicia looked at him. "So, which way, boss?" Logic said. They should play it safe and take the scenic route. Boom. A massive crash echoed through the halls. He froze. Playing it safe was officially off the table. "What the hell was that?" Carrick yelled. The dark-haired elf turned pale. An alarm. The ruin's core facility is under siege. Translation: "We've got company. Someone else is trying to clear the dungeon right now." Who else is crazy enough to be here? Felicia wondered. Shutra didn't hesitate. He grabbed Carrick's shield up. "Big guy, you're taking point." Carrick blinked, blindsided. "Say what?" Shutra gripped his shoulder. "Trust me. Do exactly as I say, and you won't get toasted." They stepped forward, and a dragon head mounted on the wall roared to life, spewing a torrent of flames. Whoosh! Carrick's shield ate the fire, keeping the squad safe in his shadow. Next up, a spike pit. Carrick squealed like a pig, barely balancing on the edge. Then came the spears flying from every angle. Clang, clang. He deflected them all, sweating bullets. Meanwhile, the rest of the team just strolled behind him untouched. By the end, Karak was wheezing, looking like a wreck. "Good hustle," Shutra smirked. Karak glared. "I almost died, man." Shutra just pointed ahead. "Yeah, but look, we speedran the way to the control room." The elf frowned, scanning the area. "Something's wrong. The gargoyle guards. Missing. Ghost town vibes." They breached the door. The room was a disaster zone. Then Shutra spotted a familiar tragedy. He motioned to Felicia. Slumped against the far wall was a skeleton, the last lord of Thunderdoom Fortress. The guy had stayed behind, going down with the ship so his people could escape the chaos. Absolute legend. "Hey, check this out," the elf called out. In the center of the room sat a massive, ominous black sphere. Felicia geeked out, inspecting it. Dwarven tech. But it's dormant. She tapped her chin. "It needs a trigger." Shutra knelt by the dead lord. "I think our friend here has the answer." He snagged a key from the skeleton's neck. Click. The black sphere hummed to life, crackling with raw electricity. BZZT holographic screens popped up in midair. The squad stood there, jaws on the floor. Felicia shook her head. These dwarves were living in 3030, while we're stuck in the Stone Age. The tech was insane. Suddenly, crash. Another explosion rocked the room. "What now?" Carrack grumbled. Daphne pulled up a feed on the screen. "Look at this. Live footage of a battle nearby. The missing gargoyles were in a mosh pit with those creepy shadow creatures from earlier. They were swarming like ants." "Those black scumbags again," Shutra realized. "They're the ones raiding the fortress." But what were they after? Then Carrack squinted at the monitor. "Is that a freaking dragon?" Where Shutra leaned in heart pounding. His eyes widened, sticking out of the beast, a weapon glowing with holy light. He couldn't believe it. Destiny calling. It was the holy grail of weapons, the Dragon Slayer Spear Ascalon. Enter Black Dragon Partisan. Massive, greedy, and pure evil. He was the heavyweight champ in the war against the Dwarf Kingdom. Partisan and his goons had hammered the Thunderdoom Fortress relentlessly. Finally, they smashed through the outer walls. The fortress was breached. Partisan, cocky as hell, led the charge, flexing his full power. But that ego, that was his fatal error. One moment of arrogance. That's all it took. Tiny Spark, the fortress's MVP, saw the opening. He didn't miss. Shunk. He drove the Dragon Slayer Spear Ascalon straight into Partisan's chest. But when the boss died, his minions went berserk. The dwarves had to bail, leaving the fortress to become a massive tomb for everyone. A graveyard for a dragon and an army. Carrack pointed at the screen, trembling. "So that's Partisan, and that spear is Ascalon. We're entombed side by side." Carrack pointed at the screen, asking if that beast was Partisan, and if the blade piercing its chest was the legendary Ascalon. Shutra confirmed the chaos. Yep, those gargoyles were throwing hands with the creatures. Seeing the brawl unfold, Felicia clocked that those pitch-black creeps were definitely hunting for Ascalon. Shutra was on the exact same page. She was absolutely fuming the audacity of these guys to attack, and think they could just waltz in and snatch the objective. Shutra turned to her desperate, asking if there was any way to hijack control of that gargoyle. As much as it sucked, she shut it down, zero chance. Suddenly, a massive tank of a guy started swinging his hammer, absolutely obliterating the black creatures. He's the boss of this dungeon right now. They watched the carnage from cover. It looked like right before the fortress fell, command was transferred to that dwarf golem, probably because he's the top-tier guardian unit. Felicia wanted to camp out and see how it played out. They came for Ascalon, sure, but the vibes were looking catastrophic. But Shutra wasn't having it. He saw a golden opportunity. She looked at him like he was insane, but he explained there were way too many variables to just sit there away from keyboard and wait. Shutra sprinted toward the kill zone, telling her to hold the line while he made a run for it. He kept his eyes glued to the map. The strategy was simple: secure Ascalon first and they profit no matter how the battle turns out. If the Dungeon Guardians clap back and win, Shutra's team doesn't even need to fight. They could just hunt down the leftovers of those pitch-black freaks. But if the enemies win, they assess the damage and either throw hands or bail. He pushed forward, spotting Partizan in the distance. The minimap was clutch, but it didn't warn him that the dwarf golem was already breathing down his neck. Bam! The golem smashed the ground, sending Shutra flying. It kept charging. Shutra tried to talk it out, but the golem answered with another lethal attack. The machine waited for the dust to settle. It paused, confused, realizing nobody got squashed. Instead, something zoomed right past it. It was Shutra, surfing on his shield like a pro. "Nice timing, GW," he shouted. Greenwind snapped back. "Stop calling me that," but he argued that abbreviations are the meta these days. She screamed. She didn't care about trends. They were almost at the target. Shutra hopped off the shield. Standing right in front of it, the artifact was even more blindingly epic in person. The Dragon Slayer Spear Ascalon. He thought it was in the bag, but surprise, surprise. It wouldn't budge. It was insanely heavy. Desperate, he dumped every single unspent point into strength, and yanked it again, roaring at the top of his lungs. The dwarf golem froze, alarmed by what this human was doing. Shutra screamed, putting his entire soul into the pull, and finally pop. He ripped it out. Instantly, a golden beam pierced the sky. It blinded the dark monsters, while Felicia and the squad stood there, jaws on the floor. Even the viewers on the screens were losing their minds. Nobody noticed the hooded figure lurking in the shadows. Ascalon wasn't just a weapon, it was the masterpiece of the Dragon Slayer series. This was the gigantic lance that pierced the heart of the Black Dragon Partizan. It was fueled by the grudge, determination, and pure rage of every dwarf who lived in the Thunderdoom fortress. Shutra was hyping himself up on the win, but then the ground shook. The hooded figure activated his powers, forcing the dragon under his command. Black Dragon Partizan roared back from the dead. An undead dragon just joined the lobby. Shutra couldn't process this. Partizan died hundreds of years ago. How is he moving? He spotted the hooded man and wondered who the hell that was. Suddenly, gravity kicked in as the dragon took flight, charging energy in its maw. Shutra realized it was that nasty purple death energy. Partizan unleashed a nuke-level attack, wiping out the pitch-black creatures and cracking the earth itself. Shutra deployed White Suri just to survive the blast. Chaos everywhere. He couldn't wrap his head around why Partizan was spewing purple death energy. He flinched when he saw the dwarf golem rushing him. But unexpectedly, the tank ignored him completely. Its target was Partizan. Smash. It hit the dragon with its hammer. Shutra was bewildered. Why are the bosses fighting each other? Felicia, Carrick, and Karma rushed to Shutra's side. She screamed over the noise. "I thought that dragon was dead. What is happening?" Shutra clocked it immediately. Someone revived Partizan with dark sorcery. She asked who and why, but he was clueless. The only thing Shutra knew for sure was that it was the same purple death energy they dealt with back on the Angle Plains. No time to chill. They had to speedrun this kill before the dragon reached full power. Felicia sensed the mana was glitching out, but she had zero idea how to take down a beast that size. Shutra locked in. "It's a zombie dragon," he explained. "There has to be a core controlling the mana flow. We smash that core, we win." Shutra didn't even get to finish his warning. The dragon's maw glowed, charging a nuke. This was bad. "Incoming dragon breath move," he screamed. The beam that erupted wasn't just an attack, it was a force of nature. It vaporized everything in its path, punching a clean hole through layer after layer of the fortress walls. Even the floor melted into slag. Carrick, Felicia, and Shutra stared at the devastation, realizing they were inches away from being ash. Carrick's jaw dropped. He looked at Shutra like, "Bro, you called that incomplete." "My bad," Shutra grimaced, realizing he totally underestimated the beast. This situation just went from bad to nightmare fuel. Every second they wasted, the monster grew stronger. Shutra's mind raced desperately, looking for a winning play. How do you kill a walking apocalypse? Suddenly, Ascalon responded. Blinding golden runes swirled around the blade. The light engulfed the dragon and fused the weapon to Shutra's arm, morphing his right hand into a massive spinning drill. Everyone stared at the transformation, but Shutra didn't waste time. "Felicia, draw aggro. I need an opening." He knew this form was the finisher. Boom. Multiple fireballs smashed into the dragon's face, snapping its attention away. Felicia didn't let up, raining down a hellstorm of magic. The dragon roared, absolutely furious at the pest. Shutra shadowed behind the beast, vibrating with Ascalon's will. One hit. That's all he needed to end this raid. He lunged for the kill, but the dragon was smarter. a massive tail whipped around out of nowhere. Smack Shutra flew across the room like a rag doll. As his team scrambled to help, he gritted his teeth, regretting his reckless charge. The dragon didn't wait, stomping the ground and sending a shockwave straight at him. Shutra braced for impact, but the pain never came. He peeled his eyes open to see the dwarf golem catching the dragon's claws mid-strike. The metal giant shoved the beast back, gripped its warhammer, and swung for the fences. Crackling lightning exploded from the hammer, electrocuting the dragon. Partisan shrieked and charged up another breath attack in retaliation. The golem held the line, trading blows, while green wind floated over to Shutra. Master status report. Felicia slid in, casting heals while chewing him out. I can end this, Shutra insisted, wincing as his HP restored. Yeah, look where that got you, she snapped. She wanted to retreat. This boss was clearly out of their league. But Shutra wasn't hearing it. Battered and bruised, he still saw a path to victory. Stop playing hero, she yelled. Shutra nodded. I know. I rushed it. I messed up. But we're past the point of no return. I need you, Felicia. One more time. I won't miss. Before she could argue, he was already moving, diving back into the fray. He jumped on his shield, surfing through the chaos to circle the dragon and stay in its blind spot. Green wind synced up with him. Meanwhile, Partisan shattered the golem's arm and opened its maw for another blast. The golem took the full force of the beam, disintegrating instantly, but its sacrifice bought them a split second. Felicia detonated a massive firestorm. Through the flames, the dragon spotted a blur zipping past. Shutra became a streak of light striking from every angle, circling faster and faster to build up kinetic energy. Partisan, totally done with this, charged another breath. Now green wind signaled. While the dragon stared up at a decoy, Shutra activated dragon blood and surged from below. He came up from the blind spot. No rushing this time. He had one shot to make this count. The dragon looked down too late. Channeling an old technique from Tiny Spark, Shutra unleashed everything. Boom! A violent pillar of energy erupted upwards, drilling straight through the dragon's torso. The beast shrieked as its insides were liquefied. The force shattered the monster from the inside out. Ultimate move, gigantic piston. Felicia watched, mouth wide open. He actually did it. The massive dragon collapsed. Ping A system notification popped up. Target eliminated, zombie dragon Partisan. Levels rained down on him. Shutra gripped the Dragon Slayer spear, feeling the rush. He unlocked the Dragon Slayer title, but the celebration was cut short. I can't believe it, a voice echoed. Shutra spun around. A mysterious figure stood there analyzing him. You actually killed it. Talk about a miscalculation. The stranger seemed disappointed it wasn't the second prince. Shutra realized instantly this was the guy who rezzed the dragon. Whatever, the stranger scoffed. He raised a spear, wreathed in blue fire, and flicked it at Shutra. Time to clean up the trash. Shutra barely reacted before a tidal wave of blue hellfire surged toward him. It slammed into the fortress, devouring stone and steel alike. The entire structure groaned and collapsed into the abyss. Despite the crushing pressure of the attack, Shutra stood unbothered amidst the rubble, dust swirling around him like a storm. He cracked his left eye open, trying to process the chaos. As the smoke and debris began to settle, his vision cleared, but confusion hit him hard. The incoming attack had just evaporated. Then came the gore. The mysterious assailant was sliced clean in two. As the body hit the floor, Shutra froze. Suddenly a voice broke the silence, claiming his timing was impeccable. Shutra's eyes practically popped out of his skull when he locked eyes with the newcomer. No mistake about it, that was the Sword Lord. The man flashed a grin and casually greeted the ninth prince like they were old pals. The ultimate shield of the Asura Sanctuary and master to Demon King Mitra Sword Lord Ishgard was an entity in Night Saga, rivaling an elder dragon. A straight-up legend, but since he was strictly background lore, players never actually got to throw hands with him in the game. He was a ghost, a myth. Even when Zephyr Ragnaros ascended to Demon King, or when Locke invaded, this guy stayed hidden. Basically, he's the mysterious OP powerhouse of Night Saga, a total monster, that even the Demon King had to beg for lessons. Ishgard noted the sixth princess had a glow-up, then suddenly hoisted her into the air, remarking she was just a tiny brat last time he saw her. Humiliated, she shrieked at him to put her down immediately. He just laughed at her tantrum, clearly enjoying the teasing, treating her like a toddler. Shutra stood there, paralyzed, unable to process that the Sword Lord Ishgard was actually in the flesh. Meanwhile, Felicia was fuming. Ishgard ignored her, asking the ninth prince if he liked the present. Shutra clicked, he meant the dragon hide. He nodded his thanks, mentioning it crafted some insane gear. He completely missed the monsters creeping up behind him. Mid-sentence, a blinding flash caught our boy's eye. Shock hit him as the energy spiked wildly. A chain of massive explosions ripped through the air. Karak yelled, asking what the hell was blowing up. Shutra was clueless too, screaming for everyone to bail. The earlier attacker started glowing before detonating. Total destruction. Luckily, Ishgard deployed a barrier just in time. He checked if the squad was okay. Shutra confirmed they survived thanks to him. Felicia was baffled by the random explosion. It made her question the enemy's real goal. Shutra recalled the assassin mentioning the second prince. It was weird, Ascalon wasn't the target. The guy didn't even care about it. So what were they actually hunting? Then the realization hit. Our MC's face went stone cold. He told Felicia their actual mark might be the second prince. That threw her off completely. She asked where that theory came from. He explained the spear wielder mentioned they were watching, specifically because the second prince didn't show up, plus attacking now. Exactly half a month after General Kashaval failed, Shutra realized they were lying in wait for someone specific. Her face fell as it clicked. They took out General Kashaval from the jump, just to use him as bait for the second prince. Felicia added that Zephyr was usually the go-to guy for these missions, so the assassins assumed he'd be the one responding. But who and why would anyone target Zephyr? Shutra noted the enemy was terrifyingly thorough. They literally blew themselves up, just to destroy any evidence. Ishgard chimed in, saying the plot was getting spicy. Felicia snapped, yelling that this wasn't a game. He shot back that he was dead serious too. She let out a defeated sigh. Then she pressed him on why he was even here. He revealed the Demon King was obsessed with the ninth prince, so Ishgard came to scope him out personally. Shutra was floored. The Sword Lord was there just to spectate him. He added that the Demon King never makes a move without a cause. If he acted out of character at the ceremony, there was a major reason behind it. And now, standing face to face with Shutra, Ishgard could figure out exactly what the Demon King was thinking. Shutra felt the atmosphere heavy up. Then Ishgard dropped a bomb. Want to learn a thing or two? Both Shutra and Felicia were shook. Ishgard clarified he wasn't taking him on as a formal disciple. He wasn't in a spot to raise a student anyway. Besides, Shutra had already mastered the Beast God Fist art. Felicia's jaw dropped at that info. She demanded to know when Shutra picked that up. Shutra asked Ishgard how he figured it out. Ishgard smirked, noting his body was a cocktail of different energies right alongside the Beast God Fist art. He couldn't pinpoint every specific detail, but the aura was unmistakable. He could feel the sheer power radiating from them. Instead of clashing, the energies were vibing together, fusing into a state of total harmony. The Sword Lord saw the potential. He wanted to drop some personal wisdom on the ninth prince. He asked for Shutra's take. Shutra froze. This was absolutely unprecedented. Aside from Demon King Matira, the Sword Lord never offered free tutorials to anyone. Shutra immediately said yes. You don't ghost a legend. Ishgard looked hyped at the answer. The plan was to teach basic aura control, but he knew Shutra's talent would remix it into something entirely different. He placed a hand on the prince's shoulder, and boom. Shutra lit up like a golden flare. Class was in session. That golden glow was pure Ishgard-style aura. Shutra closed his eyes to lock in. This hit different than the Beast God Fist. The Sword Lord's power surged through every vein in his body. Ding, the system signaled the arrival of the Asura cultivation technique. He was speedrunning the levels Asura Wind God level 11, Great Mountain level 11, and Lightning level 11. Ishgard was shook. The kid was mastering skills faster than humanly possible. Suddenly, gold and blue energies collided, triggering a supernova of blinding light. Shutra vanished into the flash, leaving even the Sword Lord frozen in disbelief. Felicia and the crew were losing it. Terrified for Shutra, Ishgard stared blankly. This wasn't in the script. The blue and gold swirled together, fusing into a single radiant core. Then the system went wild. First, the Asura technique and Beast God Fist were syncing up perfectly. Second, the protagonist's physique stats skyrocketed. On top of that, immunity to 100 poisons leveled up. Once that resistance hits level 3, it could evolve into the legendary immunity to 1000 poisons. He unlocked Harmony, level 1, and the S-rank Beast God Fist evolved instantly. A massive golden beam shot into the sky, shaking the fortress foundation. Shutra emerged from the pillar of light, hovering like a deity as the energy coiled around him. Eyes closed, body steady, he had completely tamed the power. When he finally opened his eyes, he had unlocked the SS-rank Asura Divine Fist. The light faded and thud, he collapsed on his butt. Carrick and Felicia scrambled over demanding answers from the Sword Lord. Ishgard explained that. He only meant to teach the basics, but Shutra accidentally remixed the Beast God Fist and the Asura cultivation into a brand new power. He did it on pure instinct. Historically, the only SS-rank art in the entire Night Saga lore was the hero's sword art, the signature move of the hero lock. But now, Shutra's Beast God Fist had mutated into the Asura Divine Fist Strike, sitting at the same god-tier SS rank as the hero. Ishgard admitted the kid was way more of a monster than he thought. He decided not to interrogate him. No explanations needed. He was just impressed by Shutra's existence. He asked if the new move had a name. Shutra nodded and dropped the title Asura Divine Fist Strike. Simple, but effective. However, Ishgard warned him to keep this on the down low. Shutra was already trending too hard. No need to make the royal court even more paranoid. Shutra agreed that staying low-key was the smart play. Now that the main quest was done, it was time to secure the bag and rest. Felicia looked confused about what to pack. Ishgard asked if she was a newbie at raiding. He suggested stripping the dragon for parts before the scavenger showed up. The siblings looked horrified. He proposed a three-way split of the loot. Then he asked the big question, where were they going to craft this stuff? They planned to dump it at the Demon King's castle forge. Ishgard nodded, not a terrible plan. But with materials this god tier, he suggested a personal contact. He swore by this smith's skills. He asked if they knew the name Amita. Felicia shook her head, never heard of it. But Shutra geeked out, screaming, Amida Ignesia, the legendary blacksmith of the demon realm who wields the last flame. Ishgard realized the prince knew his lore. Shutra was buzzing. This was a true hidden gem. Even in Night Saga, Amida Ignacia was a mystery, sometimes male, sometimes female. Rumors said they were a shape-shifting mage. Or maybe Amida wasn't a person but a code name for a whole secret clan. Meeting Amida was like winning the lottery. Shutra had only found them 3 times in 10 full game clears. Ishgard looked relieved to skip the long-winded explanations, cutting straight to the chase about their hideout. That news was music to Shutra's ears, but there was a catch. Ishgard warned that this guy bounced around like a nomad, meaning Shutra had to move fast. This mystery figure was a total hermit who hated visitors. But dropping Ishgard's name, that was the golden ticket for a face-to-face. Shutra was buzzing. Not only had he bagged in double S rank martial art, he also secured Amida's coordinates. Talk about an insane loot haul for such a short run. After a quick breather, the squad headed down a spiraling staircase to the lower levels. With the treasure vault picked clean, their next stop was the archives. Felicia practically dragged them there, insisting it was non-negotiable. As soon as they stepped inside, Shutra started hacking up a lung. The place was a dust trap. Felicia shot him a look teasingly, asking if his legendary curiosity was really getting defeated by a little dirt. Karak scoffed, pointing out that the 9th prince didn't give a damn about dwarven culture to begin with. Inside the main chamber, Felicia was in heaven. Her eyes literally sparkled as she shoved a book toward Delia, the dark-haired elf. She was geeking out over how pristine the records were, praising the dwarves' obsession with detail. Shutra just watched her live her best life. While Delia hauled stacks of books and Karak passed out cold on the floor, Shutra wandered off. Wondering just how ancient this place was, he spotted records carved into stone tablets. Suddenly, one of them clattered to the ground. He scooped it up and froze. The carving depicted a group led by a mysterious woman standing before a gathering of dragons. It triggered instant déjà vu. That was definitely Enkidu, flanked by the 6 elder dragons. His eyes shifted to the other side. He knew that woman. She was the entity who commanded him to conquer, the one who promised the world would kneel. A chill ran down his spine. It was Conquest herself. But why was she in a 1,000-year-old carving? The timeline didn't add up. This artifact was ancient, yet there she was, one of 4 figures facing down 6 legendary beasts. What the hell kind of connection brought that specific group together? Suddenly, green wind popped into view, hanging upside down right in his face. Why so serious? She chirped, nearly giving him a heart attack. She demanded he follow her, claiming she'd done something amazing. Shutra composed himself and glanced at the book lying on the nearby table. His eyes widened. Green wind puffed out her chest, proudly presenting her find, a detailed chronicle of the elder dragons. It listed their monikers based on personality. Enkidu, the avatar of destruction, was branded the Tyrant. Ankol, the benevolent protector, was the gentle mother. Quinn, the intellectual, was the sage. Then there was Kelton the warrior. But here was the twist. Despite his fiery intensity, his nature was closer to ice. A cold flame. A silent killer who kept his blade sheathed until the absolute last second. But the moment he drew steel, he'd burn the entire world to ash. Shutra noticed the bulk of the text focused on Kelton legends, feats, and most importantly, the coordinates of his lair. One detail on the map popped out, a mark right over the Lake of the Sunday. Who would have guessed a fire dragon hid under a lake? No wonder the veteran hunters never found him. Green Wind started fidgeting, waiting for her praise, but Shutra's brain was working overtime connecting the dots. The lair was right next to Amida's hideout near the spider forest, exactly where the Sword Lord sent them. Plus, it bordered the lycanthrope region. He could swoop in, grab Amida, and check on Caitlin and Chris all in one trip. Perfection. He finally gave Green Wind a solid head pat and told her she did a killer job, leaving her beaming. The roadmap was set. Secure Amida, then snag Elder Dragon Kelton's legendary armament. This next trip was shaping up to be a total jackpot. After wrapping up, the crew camped out at the Thunder Doom Fortress for 4 days. Felicia's stamina was terrifying. Shutra was stunned right up until the moment they packed to leave. She hadn't shown a single ounce of fatigue, burying herself in the archives. Shutra had joined her for most of it, scouring the shelves for more dirt on the Elder Dragons. Unfortunately, the intel was dry. Nothing on anyone except Kelton. But hey, silver lining, Karak had leveled up. Shutra triggered the King's Knight promotion and asked how he felt. Like a beast, Karak grunted, throwing a punch that snapped the air. He admitted that all the hellish training Shutra put him through was actually worth it. Knight Captain Karak, now officially a barracks commander. The next morning, a fresh mission briefing from Felicia landed at the Demon King's castle. But it came with a dark report. General Koshbal's death wasn't just an accident, it was likely a massive trap. Sun blazing directly overhead, the perfect bait to lure out Zephyr. Shutra was locked, loaded, and ready to bounce. But Felicia slammed the brakes. She insisted on scoping out the area a bit longer before they dipped. She had major FOMO about what she hadn't explored yet. Shutra shut that down hard. Swordlord's orders were clear. Find Amida fast or she's ghost. With zero time to waste, he basically ushered her into the carriage. Once the whole squad was on board, he signaled Karak, who was riding shotgun as the driver, to hit the gas. Wheels rolling. Shutra glanced back at the road, fading behind them. Realizing just how many times they'd brushed with death, But this wasn't just any mission. The loot they gained far outweighed the risks. He was actually hyped to see Caitlyn's reaction when he unleashed the Asura Divine Fist Strike. He was itching for that reveal. 3 days later, a fresh expedition team assembled to hunt down the assassins who targeted Zephyr. Shutra stepped up to take the helm. Meanwhile, Zephyr hit the archives. Inside, he spotted that ancient stone tablet Shutra had snagged earlier. He clocked the symbol for famine instantly. Death was chilling there too, alongside war, but the woman leading them was a total mystery. This was the figure Shutra identified as Conquest. Cut to a magma chamber, where a dragon came face to face with a woman. The dragon gave the green light to begin. He addressed her as the Knight of Conquest. This was the exact same warrior from our MC's nightmare. If y'all recall that flashback. He fired an arrow, but only a pathetic spark fizzled out, pulled a U-turn, and scorched him. Karek was baffled. He'd never seen a training regimen that brutal in his entire life. He was terrified. Shutra was destroying his own physique. Felicia dropped the plot twist though. He's actually Gucci. Shutra self-regenerated the burn. His fire arrow stats, heal ability, and mana control proficiency had all leveled up. Shutra was gasping for air, but his eyes were manic with excitement. One more rep. Karek muttered that this kid was a freak of nature. But since the magic gains were undeniable, Felicia suggested letting him cook for now. They embraced the grind at night and traveled by day, aiming for the spider forest, the hideout of Amita Ignazia. To speed-run the journey, they decided to slice through lycanthrope territory. Suddenly screeching halt. The road was on total lockdown. Karek barked out, asking what the holdup was. The guards claimed it was official lycanthrope royal business and told them to beat it. Royal business, out here in the boonies. Felicia smelled something sketchy. The guard doubled down on the order to leave. That was the last straw. She demanded they open the gate, insisting on speaking to the manager or whoever was in charge. The guard got triggered, asking if she thought she was some kind of princess. She simply replied, yes. The guard went, wait, what? She repeated it deadpan. The guard started sweating bullets as he tried to process what he just heard. She hit him with an icy glare and dropped the yes for a third time. Cut to the camp, those guards were paying the price, kneeling in the dirt with their hands in the sky. Caitlyn was beaming when she spotted Felicia and Shutra sprinting over with Chris shadowing her. She asked what they were doing here. Felicia pulled an Uno reverse card. No, what are you doing in a desolate spot like this? Especially with the roads locked down. Caitlyn hesitated. Chris stepped in and spilled the tea on the rumors. Hearing that Shutra had turned the Demon King's castle into a chaotic mess, he asked what on earth Shutra had been up to. Shutra smirked. Perfect timing, because he was just about to do a live demo. He told everyone to clear the area, a safe distance from the tents. A massive explosion detonated. Shutra and Caitlyn were sparring, and neither was holding back. Dead serious. Shutra channeled raw power into his fist. When they collided, the shockwave was seismic. The ground shattered, and the surrounding trees were reduced to splinters. Caitlyn instantly sensed this wasn't the standard Beast God Fist art. She demanded to know what that move was. He revealed it. The Asura Divine Fist Strike. Felicia explained the lore. It's a hybrid technique fusing the Beast God Fist with the Asura cultivation that the Sword Lord personally taught him. Chris was floored by the fusion and the fact the Sword Lord was his tutor. Why would he teach him? Felicia shrugged. Because he's a prodigy, obviously. Caitlyn was awestruck. She asked if she could learn it. Shutra apologized. It wasn't a structured textbook move, so he couldn't exactly teach it. It's a lost art that even the original creator couldn't pass down. Chris commented that Shutra's existence was absurd. Shutra took it as a compliment. But deep down, Chris was terrified by that growth rate. If he didn't want to get left in the dust, he'd have to train like a maniac. With the power showcase complete, it was time to get down to business. They ducked inside the tent to talk strategy. Chris dropped a disclaimer heavy enough to crush the mood. Everything from this point on was strictly classified top-secret intel. The shift in his vibe was so intense that Felicia immediately knew this wasn't just small talk. He dropped the bomb. A prisoner from the Grey Tower's basement level had broken out. Shutra's gut tightened. Everyone knew the Grey Tower was basically a holding cell for the most depraved lycanthrope monsters. And if this escapee came from the lowest floor, Shutra didn't need a name to know the threat level. Then Chris said it anyway. Gerard Moonlight. And get this, he's their maternal uncle. Felicia was completely blindsided. She had no idea that branch of the family tree even existed. Chris broke it down. Gerard was thrown in the hole 20 years ago, way before her time, so her ignorance was valid. Legend says he was once the lycanthrope royal family's MVP, a warrior without equal. If he hadn't gone totally unhinged, he would have been sitting on the throne right now instead of their mother. But the guy was thirsty for power like bottomless pit levels of obsession. Mastering the Beast God Fist art wasn't enough for him, so he started dabbling in forbidden heretical dark arts. Predictably, he snapped. Gerard's madness wasn't just a mental break, it was a natural disaster. We're talking hundreds of lycanthropes sacrificed, just to put a leash on him. The only silver lining was that the carnage was contained within the palace walls, allowing the royals to sweep the whole bloody mess under the rug. Felicia needed to double-check, was he saying, that a walking nuke was currently loose. Caitlyn chipped in with the intel report. Looks like Gerard booked it toward the east. Chris tried to downplay the panic, claiming Gerard lost half his aura in the escape battle, so he's basically nerfed right now. Plus, the east is totally the opposite direction from their current spot. Shutra pressed for details on the jailbreak. Chris admitted it was sketchy, but all signs pointed to an inside job. This triggered a memory for Shutra, a specific side quest from Night Saga involving Zephyr Ragnaros. The objective was to bust Gerard out to destabilize the lycanthropes. Shutra's mind raced had that plotline actually been triggered. That night, the scene shifted. A man gasped for air, a hand crushing his windpipe. A rugged figure gave him a simple choice: talk or die. This guy had already zeroed the rest of the squad. He demanded the location of the Moonlight Herb. Shutra watched the dream unfold, confused and disoriented. Suddenly, Conquest manifested in front of him. He demanded answers. She didn't speak, just pointed to a void of blackness behind him. Squinting into the abyss, he saw a figure lurking inside. Recognition hit him like a truck. It was Famine. Shutra snapped awake, cold sweat drenching his skin, lungs burning for air. That visual of the black aura wouldn't fade. The malice radiating from it felt physical, leaving him rattled to his core. And why the hell did the name Famine keep echoing in his brain? Before he could spiral further, Karak crashed into the tent, absolute panic written all over his features. He screamed that he had bad news. Shutra barked at him to spit it out. Karak frantically reported a breach. An enemy was tearing through the camp. He described the intruder, a long scar slicing down his left cheek, radiating a weird black energy, and slaughtering soldiers with nothing but his bare hands. No weapons needed. That description was all Shutra needed. The puzzle pieces clicked instantly. It was Gerard Moonlight. Chris and Caitlin were already on the scene, witnessing the carnage firsthand. Shutra and Karak sprinted to the chaos. Shutra's mind was reeling. Gerard was supposed to be heading east. So why is he here? The math wasn't mathing. Shutra needed the truth right now. He grilled them on their real agenda. Caitlin finally cracked. It was all about the Moonlight Herb. Chris looked betrayed that she spilled the tea. But she laid it all out. Their true main quest had always been securing that herb. They only found out about Gerard's prison break after they left. This wasn't just a plant. It was a legendary treasure. A botanical miracle that blooms once every 100 years. It's an S-tier consumable with a game-breaking effect. It packs enough juice to snatch someone back from death's door. For anyone who played Night Saga, this was the loot you got for beating Chris or Caitlin. Now, Gerard's presence made sense. He was hunting the Moonlight Herb to recharge. He was trying to recover the 50% of his aura he lost. Suddenly, the sky lit up gold. Felicia's magic, the far side of the camp, was already a war zone. Felicia raised her staff and dropped a massive firewall to stop the advance. She was running on fumes, but she held the line. It didn't matter. Gerard walked through the flames like they were nothing. Felicia froze. She thought she was done for. Clutch timing, Shutra slid in, hurling his shield straight at Gerard's face. He checked on Felicia while keeping his guard up. The impact knocked the brute back a step. Chris and Caitlin seized the opening, launching a coordinated attack. Gerard clocked them instantly. Elaine Moonlight's kids. He planted his feet and raised an arm unbothered. Caitlin yelled for him to surrender. He just smirked, claiming he was the one who truly inherited their mother's will. She hesitated, fatal mistake. His punch connected, sending her ragdolling through the air. Chris screamed, rushing toward his sister in blind panic. Suddenly, a wolf soldier tried to get the drop on Gerard from behind. Rookie mistake. Gerard snatched the beast by the throat and drained it dry in seconds. Thick, inky mist was violently ripped from the wolf's body as its life force was consumed.